Magic wrote about it in The Athletic, just the fact that the Lakers almost acknowledged the fact openly that if they don't get a big-time free throw advantage, they can't in some ways hang with the Warriors
right.
as this series rolls on. So I think that's something to keep an eye on moving forward. I know the officials have been announced just while we're on that topic for Game 3 tonight. Whitey, I always present this without opinion. If you want to share one, I know Warrior fans tend to go crazy. Opposing teams fans go crazy. Kings fans are going crazy. There's some Laker fans in the mentions right now on social media going crazy over just the mere tweet about who the Game 3 officials will be. But looking through that, it'll be David Guthrie, Bill Kennedy, Mitchell Irvin tonight here at what they now call Crypto.com Arena. I have no opinion on it either way, but the officiating, at least from the Lakers side of things, seemed to be a big focus coming off of Game 2 and heading toward Game 3.
Did you see the numbers on how frequently we've had a disparity like we had in Game 1, free throw-wise, in the NBA playoffs? You know, it was 29 free throws for the Lakers and then 6 for the Warriors. Only 5 times in playoff history have we had a discrepancy like that, ever. In playoff history, only 5 times. And that was the only time, that's the only time that the road team got that many free throws when we've had that discrepancy. It seems to me, JD, that, and we know the Lakers are built this way. I'm not saying that they need the officials to give them a favorable whistle, but if they don't get to the foul line, they don't win. I mean, if they get to the foul line, that's the way they're built, leading the league in free throws, they could win. But if the Lakers don't get to the foul line, I don't think they can win this series.
No, and you look at Game 1 where the Warriors had a 45-point advantage from the three-point line with their 21 makes to the Lakers 6, but the Lakers were able to make up for it because they had a 26-point advantage in the paint and then a 20-point advantage at the free throw line. So combining the paint points and the free throw points, they were actually plus 46, which bested the Warriors plus 45 from 3, and then the Lakers ended up obviously winning that game by 5. So I'm with you. As part of their offense, because they don't consistently make threes, and they haven't in the first couple of games of this series, just looking at 16 three-point makes in 2 games combined for the Lakers. The Warriors have hit 21 in each of the first 2 games of this series. Is that something that carries through as the series shifts in terms of the hot Warriors shooting from 3 going on the road? But, yeah, the Lakers just need those points. I don't think it's about a favorable whistle or not. They just need the free throws to be able to be efficient enough offensively. They got that in Game 1. Anthony Davis obviously was a lot better in Game 1 than Game 2. But as you look at this thing, the Lakers did what they had to do in coming in and winning 1 of 2 at Chase, and now we'll see. I know the Warriors probably believe that they fixed some of their road woes in the final 2 games of Sacramento, winning Game 5 and Game 7. But this is a new series, and we'll see if the hot shooting can continue for the Warriors. Some real good adjustments from Golden State from Game 1 to Game 2. I thought, Whitey, I kind of laid out my adjustments, and series are all about these adjustments, but more Draymond Green on Anthony Davis. The Warriors did that, and Draymond basically made Anthony Davis tap out in Game 2, which is a story that we've seen before. Go small, try to run the Lakers' bigs. I thought the Warriors did do more of that. JaMychal Green getting the start for Kevon Looney, who was ill, was part of that, and what a lift they got from JaMychal Green with the 15 points in that game and knocking down 3 threes. More Curry on ball. The Warriors were able to do that, and I thought it would be more to look to Cook for himself.
Pick and roll,
but it was more getting others involved and being patient and disciplined. Just an exceptional point guard performance from Steph.
And, yeah, absolutely. Very highly efficient. I know a lot of people probably looked at his scoring numbers and said, what happened? But he was hyper efficient in that game, and obviously an absolute key to victory. The fact that Draymond was able to take advantage of the fact that the Lakers didn't guard him, he had done that earlier, we know, against the Kings, where he had one game where he missed a lot of layups and came back the next game and lit them up. He took advantage of that in the last game. He defended AD very well. AD, as you alluded to, Anthony Davis in the playoffs so far this year, every time he's scored 20 or more in a playoff game this year, he's followed up with 16 or fewer. So he's up and down. He's all over the place. Like, where did he go? What happened to Anthony Davis? And I think, JD, I'd love to know what you think of this. I'm sure when the schedule came out, games every other day. For the Warriors, that's a little concerning, but I think the Lakers may need rest more than the Warriors do. I know the Laker roster isn't that old, but their two main guys probably need more rest than even the Warriors do right now.
Well, and the Lakers need massive games from both of those players.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, we talked about the game Davis had, but LeBron has to be able to score and do it efficiently.
And he's hurt. LeBron is hurting right now.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think taking the easy way out as far as just settling for jumpers because he doesn't have it physically game in, game out to be able to attack in the paint the way that he needs to when he's at his best, getting downhill. I know that's something the Lakers have talked about a lot, wanting to get downhill and toward the basket and get buckets that way and also get those free throw attempts that are so critical to them as well. But I think the Warriors, as much as they are an older team themselves, really believe that they're a better conditioned team, and they're just built to be able to run over and over and over and over, and that they can wear the Lakers down as this series goes on, especially if they have the ability to go small in stretches as they did more in Game 2. So, yeah, I think you're onto something as far as the Lakers, and I think that was part of them kind of giving up in Game 2, almost packing it in. Hey, let's rest up. I know the Warriors got an opportunity to rest their starters more than usual, certainly for a playoff game, but it was almost as if mid-third quarter the Lakers said, let's just start focusing on Saturday and trying to go all in to win that game. It's almost a pseudo load management in a way for a playoff series for the Lakers to try and make sure they have as much in the tank as they can for tonight.
Yeah, and I know this is Basketball 1A basically, and we have the smartest listeners in radio on this show especially. But, one of the benefits of the Warriors getting out and running is you don't get the Lakers. The Lakers are really good defensively. If they're not set, you can get them in transition. That's great. Also, you avoid sending them to the foul line. The Lakers, again, it has to do with tempo. Everything literally stops. The game stops. They're shooting free throws, makes it easier for the Lakers to get back and get their defense set. So the fewer free throws they attempt, the fewer fouls the Warriors commit, and the more the Warriors get out and run, you actually neutralize what advantages the Lakers have with the fact that their defense is very good. But if you get them in transition, it's a different deal.
888-957-9570, 888-957-9570. That is the phone number to give us a call or shoot us a text here on 95.7 The Game. John Dickinson in Los Angeles ahead of Game 3 and Game 4. We've got a full day of Warriors coverage coming your way here on 95.7 The Game with the 5:30 tip tonight from Crypto.com Arena. I'm still getting used to that one, being here so many times over the last couple of decades and having it be Staples Center, the Crypt, they call it for short, down here. And the Warriors trying to take the 2-1 lead tonight. Games 3 and 4, of course, we're going to have every game for you here on 95.7 The Game. But we're with you, Whitey, until 1 o'clock, and then with a little break, and then I'm going to be back in that 4 o'clock hour for Warriors Live, getting you set up from the arena for Game 3, and it should be a good one. I think you asked about the vibe here in Los Angeles. I think the vibe is that it's going to be a long series, and that the Lakers did what they had to do in getting one, and that it's going to be a different story as far as from what we saw in Game 2 in the games played down here in Los Angeles. I think it's a confident Laker fan base that they feel that they'll be allowed to be a little more physical in defending the Warriors, that the Warriors are not going to hit 20-plus three-pointers, and that the Lakers will get the advantage of maybe being the aggressor on the home floor to get those free throw attempts that they so very much need to be able to hang in and win games in this series. It really is interesting because it's almost as if the Lakers just their plan is to have, in some ways, 4 chances in this series, right? Mm-hmm. Create 4 games, but you got to go, in a way, you almost have to go 4 for 4. Like if there's ever one of these close games, like a Game 1, where things are kind of going the Lakers' way in terms of the paint and the free throw, like, you better win that game.
Right.
Otherwise, at that point, the Warriors may all but clinch the series, and I think a lot of people would have felt that way. Had the Warriors won game one, especially from down 14 with 6 minutes to go, and then run the Lakers out in the second half of game two, we'd have a completely different feel for this thing. But obviously that didn't happen. The Lakers deserved to win game one, and now here we are with what figures to be a really good back and forth series. I know I had Warriors in 7. I'm sticking with Warriors in 7. I'm interested to get your take on this too, Whitey. Just the fact that it feels like, from doing Warriors wrap-up after the game Thursday, from being on, I know you were on with Dibs Thursday, I was on with Dibs yesterday in for Mark Willard, but it feels like Warrior fans are extremely confident in that almost they have figured the Lakers out and believe the Warriors have figured the Lakers out, and that this series is just going to be on cruise control. I don't see it that way, as much as the Warriors looked really good. I think every time we've seen Whitey this year, the Warriors appear to be at that moment where they're about to seize control. They just don't. They come up with a bad game.
True.
Or the opponent hits back. And even in the Sacramento series, that was the case with the awful Game 6 that they played at Chase Center. But just kind of what's your sense for, have the Warriors figured the Lakers out and now it's downhill for them the rest of the way as this thing moves forward?
Well, I know we were talking. I basically was in for you Thursday because you were going to be in for Mark Willard, and then you had to do everything else that night, game night. So I was kind of in for you, and then you were in for Willard yesterday. In a way, I mean, JD's getting it done. You can hear the voice. Reminds me of last year when you were coming to us from Boston at the end.
Oh no, we're good. We're nowhere near that territory.
Good. Yeah, I know. It reminded me of that. The fact that I mentioned it because we were talking, Dibs and I, and a lot of the Warrior fans that you're talking about, we were talking about JaMychal Green. Hey, maybe JaMychal Green tonight. No, we didn't know that Looney was going to be ill and that JaMychal Green was going to start, but he played so well. And it speaks to one thing that's really unique about this Warrior team, in my opinion. If you go back over teams that have won multiple championships over a number of years, they typically will dictate, this is what we do and you have to adjust to us. But where the Warriors are right now, they don't really do that as much. I mean, there's a degree to which they do that. But then it's like, hey, JaMychal Green starting tonight, and he comes through. Steve Kerr is just he does a really good job with this roster. We know about the shortcomings. I mean, but that was just an example of how this Warrior team, to me, is unique among teams that have won multiple championships. But if I'm a Warrior fan right now, my confidence comes from, as we said, the fact that LeBron is, he's got a bad issue with his foot right now. I'm not making excuses for him, but he's not LeBron. He's not as dominant. Even he had 20-something in the first half. The second half, he was okay. So he's not LeBron right now, and they need him to be the Lakers do to thread the needle and win this series. And then Anthony Davis is just what happens to him. He was dominant in the first game, and then game two, Draymond had a lot to do with it. He talked about pushing him off of his spots, but Anthony Davis disappeared. So if you're a Laker fan, how confident can you be when your two main guys, one is hobbled and the other one is just, he's really good most nights, but some nights he's not. So I think, to answer your question, that's where a lot of the Warrior fan confidence comes from.
Yeah, the Warriors did a much better job against D'Angelo Russell and Dennis Schroeder in game two compared to game one. They both were very comfortable. And really for the first 5 quarters of this series, one of the big concerns that I had, Whitey, was the fact that the Lakers' offense looked really comfortable. I thought the Warriors defensively, especially playing at home, would be able to lock the Lakers up a little bit more. And for the first 5 quarters of this series, it just didn't happen. The Warriors, though, I think igniting their offense in the middle 2 quarters of game 2, that helped their defense, and the avalanche came that we're so used to seeing for the Warriors against this Lakers team with the 84-47 middle 2 quarters of game 2. He's Whitey Gleason. I'm John Dickinson. 888-957-9570. Let's get to the phones and get it started with Eric in San Francisco here on a Saturday morning on 95.7 The Game. What's going on, Eric?
Hey, good morning, JD and Whitey. So I was calling in because you know how Shaq says he calls them the others, the importance of the role players. I really think the difference between game 1 and game 2 was their others came out and played much better than our guys. And then, Moody had a nice game and DiVincenzo was much better. And so I feel like, I think if Clay or Steph or Dre have a bad game, the dubs are sunk anyways. But where I really think that it's on the margins today is whether basically our non-essential, like not non-essential, but our non-key guys perform against Jared Vanderbilt, D'Angelo Russell, and the rest of their kind of like Austin Reeves. Is he going to go off like he did against Memphis? And I don't know what you guys think, but I think that's kind of the key to the game, is how the non-key essential guys play in comparison to the key guys, just because we all know they're going to all, or at least four of them are going to show up between LeBron, Curry, Thompson, and Green, and then Davis is the wild card. So I'll take my answer off the air. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. No, I think there's something to that for sure. I mean, Moses Moody played 26 minutes, and some of that was mop-up duty, but he was playing more in Game 2 than he had been playing, even though he's been a regular member of the rotation since Game 3 of the Sacramento series. It was more Moody and DiVincenzo. It was less Jordan Poole and less Gary Payton II, but it all comes back to the others, or the role players or the bench players, playing better at home, which is typically a trend. The Warriors got a little more of that in Game 2. Can the Warriors carry that with the others onto the Crypto.com floor here in Game 3 and Game 4? And will the Lakers get better contributions from Reeves, who hasn't given them much, Russell and Schroeder, who had good Game 1s but did not in Game 2?
I want to back up just for a moment to a comment you made right before we went to Eric, because I thought it was a great point, and it gets forgotten because Game 2 was such a blowout. But as you said, you mentioned the Warriors had some issues getting defensive traction through the first 5 quarters of the series. Yeah, after that first quarter, I mean, the Lakers were in pretty good shape. Game 2 after the first quarter, right? They were up 33-26, and I was like, and then the next thing you know, well, forget about it. So that was a great point that you raised. I think DiVincenzo is the key for the Warriors. You know, he hasn't had a very good postseason, as we know, and he showed some signs of busting out of that. And as a veteran, I mean, he's a guy that should be able to play well on the road. I think we've seen that during the season. I know the playoffs are different, but he's got some, big-time playoff experience. Interesting guy that Eric mentioned to me is D'Angelo Russell, because I'm not sure he's really one of their others. I mean, I get that. I understand that. But look at Game 1 towards the end when the game was slipping away from the Lakers, and they had to bring him back in to stabilize the offense. So I'm not disagreeing with Eric. It's a great point. But as far as D'Angelo Russell goes, he's a little bit more than that to them sometimes this year.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I think Eric was kind of putting it as, well, they've got LeBron and AD. The Warriors have Steph and Clay. And then everybody, like you could make the case Wiggins isn't an other for the Warriors, right? In that same vein. And D'Angelo Russell did have the game-winning bucket after the Warriors went on the 14-0 run to tie the game from 112-98 to 112. I thought the Warriors in Game 2, one of the low-key adjustments was, D'Lo was kind of giving it to Wiggins in Game 1, which was surprising to see him look so comfortable. The Warriors switched it up and put Klay Thompson on D'Angelo Russell in Game 2, and Klay did a hell of a job. I don't know whether Klay's defense better when he's making shots, or does he make shots when his defense is better? I don't know, chicken or the egg, but Klay was phenomenal in Game 2 in all phases.
I know that I wasn't able to sit with you for Game 2, but I sure was reminded real quick here, seeing D'Angelo Russell and Jordan Poole, and it's like, hey, I remember that year when D'Angelo Russell was here when Klay wasn't playing at all. Boy, that was not much of a year. And it's just a surprise to see that Jordan Poole, the way he's playing now, and also D'Angelo Russell, who, just was not a good fit here. And now he's become a key part of this Laker team right now. Just brought back those not so good old days to me, JD.
888-957-9570. John Dickinson and Whitey Gleason. Warriors this week here on 95.7 The Game. Comcast Business text line open, but let's keep it rolling on the phone lines here with Jonathan in San Francisco. Next up, Jonathan, you're on with JD and Whitey. Hey, Jonathan.
Hey, good morning, JD and Whitey. My biggest takeaway after 2 games is that the Warriors would have been 2-0 if the referees weren't suckers for, giving the Lakers 29 free throws when all they did was, flail their arms wildly in the air and flop and fall on their own at the slightest contact. But, what we can do, right? We just got to keep playing. So it's 1-1. I expect this series to be tied after 4 games, but the Warriors in 6, because you know why? When this matchup first became, on schedule, the first person I thought right away was Don Nelson. You know how I say it's in practice, right? Little guys versus small guys. The little guys always beat the bigger guys 9 out of 10 times or 8 out of 10 times. That said, I think we got the series because we're the little guys, and not only that, we got the greatest little guy of all time.
Yes, and Steph was tremendous in Game 2 of this series, just controlling the game, making the right play, doing it quickly and decisively, attacking more with the ball in his hands, but attacking to get others involved, which I think was so key. And, yeah, I think Jonathan's onto something there, Whitey, with the Don Nelson and the little guys beating the big guys over time. I think the Warriors believe as this series gets deeper, they've got more of an advantage because the Lakers won't be able to keep up with their pace and their skill level. As far as the refs, look, that's going to be a story in this series.
Yep.
There are going to be multiple games in this series where, because the Lakers and the style that they play, they're going to get more free throw attempts. And so the Warriors are going to have to do the best they can to try to be aggressive and close the gap, I think is the way Steve Kerr put it after Game 1. Not expect that you're going to shoot more or expect even that it's going to be even, but just do enough to where there isn't a dramatic gap in play that really puts the Warriors in a vulnerable position. They're going to have to play through that, and they're going to have to just, I think stay calm, keep their composure at times where it might get frustrating or appear as if they're really getting the short end of the whistle. Whether they are or not is debatable, but teams can get frustrated, especially when other things aren't going well and the opposition is living at the free throw line.
It's a great point. Thank you, Jonathan, for the call. I think if the officials call it accurately, there's a very good chance the Lakers will have more free throws. And, it seems counterintuitive because we tend to think, well, it should be even. But the way these teams play, based on what we saw during the regular year, if the officials just called everything right down the line, there's a very good chance the Lakers are going to have more free throws. And as you said, as Steve Kerr said, hopefully it's not going to be 29-6, but it's probably not going to be even. So we'll see. That's going to be a huge key. And just real quickly, Jonathan's comments reminded me of when the Lakers signed LeBron in 2018. Do you remember this, JD? Magic was still there. There was a lot of talk of how the Lakers were going to try to beat the Warriors, not by playing the way the Warriors do, but by playing tougher, being bigger, and there's still some remnants of that plan. Now it's mostly about Anthony Davis, but it's just fascinating to me that all these years later it's come to this. I still like the Warriors' chances, but the Lakers have been planning for this moment to knock out the Warriors. I know they got them in the play-in thing. This has been like 4 or 5, whatever. It's been 6 years in the making for them.
Yeah, and you said Magic, and I kind of lost my train of thought there and thought, I'm not going to be here. I don't know why. I don't know why that always. And I was walking around the arena here. I'm staying right by the arena here in downtown Los Angeles, and I just walking by, and I got just a nice picture of the Magic Johnson statue that's out front here. And I just, every time I see Magic now, I think of that press conference where he just tell, I'm not going to be here. But yes, to your point, you're right. I mean, that was part of what the Lakers were thinking in that moment, and that was back when the Warriors were the defending Western Conference. They were the defending NBA champions.
Yeah, right.
When LeBron came in 2018, and the Lakers obviously winning the bubble chip back in 2020. All right, we'll pause here. 888-957-9570, Austin and San Jose, Joe in San Francisco. We'll get to you two coming up right out of the chute as I am in Los Angeles, Whitey Gleason back in San Francisco. 888-957-9570. Your thoughts on Game 3, series tied at a game apiece, and we've got you covered all day long right here on 95.7 The Game.
So, how's your research going?
Surprising! After I figured out the top-rated TVs in our price range, I went shopping for deals.
And who's the best?
It wasn't the internet, and it wasn't the warehouse club.
But?
It was video only. They had better deals on the Samsung, LG, and the Sony TVs that got the highest scores.
speech this week about, falling, getting on the bus. I think that was really profound. I think he showed listen, Steph's reputation and legacy is intact. Steph doesn't need this series. Win or lose, Steph's reputation isn't going anywhere. But the other guys have an opportunity to improve their standing if they follow. And then he went out and scored 50 and said, hey, let me show you. Because then he comes back against L.A. the other day and says, look, I'm going to let all you guys eat. I'm going to show you guys that I can distribute. I can let you, if you follow me, you'll eat and we'll all eat, but you got to stick with the plan. So I think that Steph is really being really profound in terms of his leadership. I think that's something we need to really not lose sight of. It's not an accident that these guys are won by 27. The other thing I wanted to say was the players on the team like Poole and Wiggins, they need to own their roles, man. I mean, we shouldn't be talking about the and Austin Reeves. I mean, these guys are decent players. But the one thing I'll say about those guys, when they come on the court, they have one thing to do. I mean, Austin Reeves shoots. D'Angelo Russell's a scorer. Vanderbilt is a defensive guy. Our guys need to understand their roles and not try to be anything other than that. Do your job, and the Warriors got this, man. I say the Warriors in 6 if everybody does their job and follows Steph. That's what I got, guys. Thanks.
Austin, appreciate the call. A lot of good thoughts there, especially about Steph, and what a week for Steph. Going back to and with this series coming on fast and furious, and the Warriors basically playing every other day here now, all the way since Game 5 of the Sacramento series, Whitey. But what a week for Steph with the speech after the debacle that was Game 6 against the Kings, and all of the really worry in the Bay that the dynasty could end as early as last Sunday afternoon in Sacramento. It didn't happen. Steph, the leader on display. Steph, the just legend with the 50 in Game 7, the most ever scored, and then the ability to be the distributor that he was in Game 2 of this series. And really, I think, as Austin says, setting the tone for everybody else as to how the Warriors have to keep attacking this Lakers team.
I think Steph's speech and the other issue that Austin's talking about, some of the players needing to understand their roles, I think they're related. Maybe not Wiggins so much, but we know that some of the younger players, looks like they've been unhappy with their playing time. Jordan Poole even said something this week to a reporter. They're, well, I don't know how much I can do and only playing 15 minutes, whatever. But for Steph to call them all out and hold them all accountable, again, just showed he's becoming more and more and more of a vocal leader in addition to leading on the floor. But just that Game 6, and I know the Warriors are beyond that now, that's one of the most surprising things I've ever seen watching basketball, that the Warriors were set up. All right, Sacramento's boy, they threw a scare at us here, but we're home. We wrap this up. We get some rest. And then for them to just whoosh, go flat like that, they made up for it. I know they got the win, so I'm not dwelling on something negative, but I do think it's interesting to keep that in mind, that Steph needed to do that in the first place with this team, because that Game 6, and they all said it, that was an embarrassment, JD.
It really was, and it put them in a position where it all could have ended. Steph saved that from happening. The Warriors found the champion's blood, I think, that they had in Game 5 in Sacramento, and they were able to dial that up with Steph carrying the scoring load to help put the Kings away in that Game 7. But yeah, just a legendary performance from Steph and the way he did it. And you're right, he is becoming more of a vocal, not a loud vocal leader, but a quiet, stern, focused vocal leader. And I'm going to tell you, I was having this conversation with Steiny. I was having this conversation with our boss as well yesterday, just about the Warriors being on this run, and it's back and forth, and we really don't know. I mean, this is the first true run for the Warriors where they could win it, they could not win it, right? And more than any of the other years, from even in 15 when they hadn't won, they were 67 wins and the number 1 seed and all of that, and you had a pretty good idea that they had a great shot to win it. There were years where they were gonna win it, period. Right up until the point that they didn't, all those Durant years and the 73-9 year. But it felt on a lot of those playoff runs, even last year, like the Warriors were in control basically in every single series up until they got down 2-1 in Boston. So really there were a couple of days in Boston where it was like, oh, okay, they might lose. But for almost 2 full months, the thought was, well, they're going to win it. This is the first playoff run where it feels like, yeah, they could win it if they're able to to continue to play at the high level they've played at when they've played well, they could also go out in this series or the next or even in the finals. But that is a long and winding way of getting to this point. If the Warriors do win it this year, and I think there's a moment coming where we're all going to realize maybe they can win it, right? Maybe it's the end of this series or if they get up in this series. But if they win it this year, again, Steph Curry's legacy is cemented. But, I mean, to me, it's another stratosphere based on how they've had to do it this year and how much he's had to do, not only with his play, but also by keeping the unit together, where at every turn it's felt like this Warriors team has just been a tick away from completely coming apart at the seams.
I think they've been very fortunate in the sense that just as the dynasty has started to, I don't know, I'll say wind down, who knows how much longer it can go on here, but we know that it would appear to be at least the back nine of the dynasty, and that's happening at a time when the league is so wide open. You know, it's not like, oh, we're older now, I guess it's somebody else's time. Like, no, nobody else is really that good, so we'll keep it going. But it's funny you say that, because last night after Boston won, I was watching Tatum on TV, and it was the first time that I've had the thought that, we could have a rematch. We could have the Celtics and the Warriors in the finals. Now, of course we could, but that was the first time it even crossed my mind last night, JD.
Yeah, and I'm not quite there yet, but one thing I've said, again, I said it to our boss, I've said it to Steiny, I said, there's going to come a point where, nobody's really looked at this playoff as they're going to win it, I think, because immediately they were up against it in the Sacramento series. But there's going to be a moment, and I likened it to the Giants in their championship runs, because you didn't know if they were going to win it, and you thought they probably weren't in all of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's more similar to this Warrior run in the sense that, but in all of those Giants championship years, there was a point in the playoffs where you thought, they're going to do it, aren't they?
Yeah.
And I think that moment, the Warriors are getting closer to that. And look, they're not even they're 3 wins away from being halfway to winning it. But with Milwaukee going out and with Phoenix not quite looking as good, Denver's pretty solid, but it's still Denver trying to go through it, for the first time as the 1 seed and the favorite. Boston is flawed. I think we're seeing that Philly isn't even as good as Boston. Miami and the Knicks, I mean, no chance that they're winning a title. If they somehow come out of the East, then whoever comes out of the West is going to be breathing real easy at that point. So the Warriors are locked in.
Yeah,
they're locked in what they have to do to survive, and have been really for the last 4 weeks. But as they continue to push forward, in some ways, it almost the light at the end of the tunnel becomes a little bit, I don't know, it seems a little bit easier the closer you get to it in a weird way.
Mm-hmm.
Let's keep it rolling. 888-957-9570. Joe in San Francisco next here on 95.7 The Game. Hey, Joe.
Hey, guys. Welcome back, Whitey. I wanted to say something about that the Warriors that the Lakers are going to need more rest than the Warriors. And that harkens back to, it's the late 80s. I'm in Mazatlan, Mexico at a Senior Frogs, and I'm watching the then aging but still great Lakers and Magic Johnson defeat the young and athletic Utah Jazz, Stockton Malone, or second and third, year. And they had this guard, Bobby Hansen, who was just running Magic all over the place. And Magic looked exhausted. It was like 1988 or something like that. Lakers win. They actually go on to win the championship that year. But I remember Magic saying after that series that I want to thank Bob Hansen for getting me into shape. He's been playing for Magic in the years, championships, MVPs, the whole season, back when they played 82 and Brutal Ball. But they needed that super intense run to get going. And Sacramento did that for the Warriors. The Lakers are not nearly going to run as much as the Warriors. Phoenix is aging. Chris Paul, none of these teams are going to provide the aerobic test that this old Warrior team needed. So they're only 5 games into this type of thing, but athletically, I think this whole that they're ancient and old and going to be needing the rest, I think that's a false narrative. Yeah, it's true and legit, but they have the best shaped team in the playoffs still. And a lot of the teams that they have facing ahead have old, aging superstars. So what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I think you're onto something, Joe, and thanks for the call. I mean, we kind of laid it out with Phoenix. Again, the Knicks and the Heat, I think you'd throw them out completely. Boston is still, I think, a younger team that is pretty good, but something seems a little bit off about them. Denver, again, is young enough, I think. They'd be the one team that would concern me as far as, trying to, being able to keep up with the physical component of hanging with the Warriors, although we've seen the Warriors make Jokic less effective. He still gets his numbers, but they've made him less effective in prior matchups, including last year, although that was a different Nuggets team that didn't have Murray or Porter in that playoff series. But yeah, I do think the Warriors are the best conditioned team, and I do think the closer you get toward the finish line, in many ways, the easier it gets from a physical standpoint. And then again, Whitey, you get to the finals, and there's a long way to go. I know, Whitey, I was looking at this last night and the last couple of days. The Warriors could go from Game 5 against Sacramento all the way through the Western Finals, depending upon how it lays out, if the series were to go 7, let's say, and play every other day for 34 straight.
Wow.
Which would be it just based
I didn't realize that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so and I mean, so lock in, Warrior fans, and who knows? I mean, maybe the series goes 6 and there's an extra day here or there, but if the Warriors played this series to 7 and a conference final series to 7, they would play every other day from, again, going all the way back to Game 5 a week and a half ago in Sacramento, all the way through the Memorial Day Sunday, going every other day. So it would be April 26th all the way through May 29th, over a month of playing every other day. But you get to the finals, and then you start getting 3 days before it starts,
right,
2 days in between most of those games, and the recovery is much more in play in that series.
First of all, Joe, great Bobby Hansen reference. Thanks for that. But you reminded me of a conversation I had. I was filling in on the afternoon show, talking to Steve Kerr about Looney, and I'd always ask him about Looney and what great shape he's in. And I asked if Looney was in the, like the best shape on the team, and Coach Kerr said, well, no, Steph Curry's in the best shape of anybody in the league. So, there is that. It's a great point. But I also think even in that Kings series, and I'm not disagreeing with you, but I think there were times, especially towards the end of that series, where there were some Warriors that made the Kings look out of shape. Like Looney, in some ways, ran circles around Sabonis, right? I mean, how many times there's a loose ball, and it's like Sabonis has no chance because Looney's going to get it, not just because he's smart, because he was quicker and just was quicker off his feet and just anticipated things better. So I do think even in the Kings series, the Warriors at times looked a little more athletic than parts of the Kings team.
They did, and it looked like they were maybe wearing them down after Game 5.
Yeah.
Game 6 left everybody going, what is going on here?
Yeah.
But then the Warriors were able to bounce back. And remember, there was so much of the discussion about Game 7, and I know Game 7s are different, Whitey, but it was Game 7, quick turnaround. A big part of this show last week when Alan was subbing in for you was, were the Warriors just not locked in, or were the Warriors cooked physically? Because it looked, by the way they played, as if they were cooked physically. I know Steve Kerr, after Game 7, said, no, it was more the spacing, and we pinpointed it immediately. He said in their film session between Game 6 and Game 7, and that was why they looked so bad. It wasn't so much the physical, but just the spacing being bad, and that was leading to all the turnovers and the janky shots that they took.
And it was between the years, too, right? I mean, there's really no way around that.
No doubt. And so I know before, it was funny, there were a couple of times in the series, and we'll get back to the phones here in just a second, but there were a couple of times in the last series where Steve Kerr, I think it was after the turnovers in Game 2 of the Kings series, and I think I asked him about the turnovers, and he said, I watching the film, they're really unforced. And I had thought, hey, the Kings are really kind of getting into them, much better than you would have thought the Kings could ever get into them. Is that causing the turnovers? And Coach Kerr had said, no, it's really we're careless. Mm-hmm. And I thought, and it didn't quite it wasn't going with what I was seeing totally. He was right, 100%, because the next 3 games, the Warriors cleaned it up. There was nothing the Kings could do about it. And then the issue with the spacing, he came out before Game 7 and said, without saying it, he wasn't going to tell, obviously the world and the Kings what it was, but he said very confidently before Game 7, there's one thing we noticed in the film that we're going to adjust to in this, and I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it turned out to be, and he said after they had won, that it was that spacing issue, and I thought, okay, was this on them, or was this they're tired, or was it something Sacramento was doing? And it was another instance of the Warriors had the fix, Whitey, for what ailed them, and I think that's been a big component to their ability to figure out their ways to win enough in this series, and they did it between Game 1 and Game 2.
Yeah, well, I'm anxious to see, as everyone is, what the Lakers' adjustments are for tonight, too, so can't wait.
All right, let's keep it rolling with Thomas in Vallejo next here on Warriors This Week. Hey, Thomas.
Oh, hey, how you doing? It's actually Tracy.
Oh, what's up, Tracy?
Sorry, Tracy.
How you doing, Tracy? Yeah, we got you loud and clear. What's on your mind, man? You're a Lakers fan, Tracy?
No.
What's your perspective on this thing?
Yeah, I'm a Lakers. Okay, well, let me just start off and say, for starters, I appreciate good basketball in this series. It's living up to everything what I think it will live up to. And I want to say, living up here in the Bay for all my life, I always had a soft spot in my heart for the Warriors to begin with. But I just always been a Laker fan, going back to the Magic Johnson days. But I think the thing I'm looking at it towards the Laker side is we got to win games 3 and 4. We got to hold on the home court advantage, because I think even if Golden State leaves out with a split, I really don't like our chances then, because I think if it goes 7, it's going to probably swing toward the Warriors' way. But if we win games 3 and 4, I think we can wrap the Warriors up in 6. That's just my honest opinion, and I'll take your thoughts off air.
Yeah, I mean, that's the template, right, Whitey? I mean, you steal one of the first 2, then you hold serve, and the Warriors have still, although better in Game 5 and 7 against the Kings, have not been a good road team this year. Is that something that re-manifests itself tonight and Monday? That's one thing that I've got at the top of my list as things to watch for. Can the Lakers make the game ugly? But yeah, to me, that the Lakers' template to win the series is winning their 3 home games. I think that's I'm not going to say their only shot. I would give any team a chance with LeBron James to win a Game 7 on the road. I'm not saying they would. I picked the Warriors to win in 7, but yeah, the Laker template is make the Warriors pay for being a bad road team by hitting them here these next 2, putting the pressure on the Warriors to stay alive in Game 5, and then have to come back down here next Friday with an elimination game on the line. I mean, that's if the Lakers can't do that, Warriors come back and win tonight, then they're in big-time control of this thing, even if it still winds up 2-2 going into a Game 5.
I agree with Tracy, and not just because he's from my hometown of Vallejo, but I think what he said gets back to something you said much earlier in the program about how realistically, you never know how these things are going to go. We're just guessing, obviously. But it does look like the Lakers have certain opportunities in this series, and if they fail to take advantage of those opportunities, they're in big trouble because it's going to be difficult for them to overcome a missed opportunity. For example, they won one of the first 2. That's great, but now they got to capitalize on that. As for the road thing, JD, I'm glad you brought that up. Could be totally wrong. To me, I don't think that's necessarily – to me, it's not an issue for the Warriors anymore. I think they played well. I know they lost the first 2 games at Sacramento, but then they came back Game 5. And you look at some of the issues they had this year on the road, and so many of them, I think of the meltdown in Salt Lake City when Steph didn't play, and so many games when they were load managing, and so many times they looked so bad so early in the year. To me, and it's always easier in a playoff series, I think. I mean, it's tough to win on the road because you're playing really good teams, but the travel is not really a factor. So maybe I'm wrong, but to me, the whole Warrior road thing, that's not a factor. We'll find out, obviously, over the next 2 games whether I'm right or not.
So you think they've figured out the road issues?
I do, for the most.
As the Kings series went on.
Yeah, I think so. I do, and I honestly think they probably should have won that first game in Sacramento.
Well, they could have won all 4.
Yeah,
but the Game 1 and Game 2 did play out like a lot of their regular season games, which I think gave everybody legitimate pause when it came back for Game 5 as to are the Warriors going to be able to do it? They did winning game 5 and game 7. And the game 5, Whitey, I think you could make the case was one of their best playoff wins in the last 10 years, given what was at stake on the road. I mean, game 7 could be right up there, too, with what Steph did. But in that environment, it was just impressive as hell what the Warriors did.
Yeah, so that's why, to me, that's not a thing, but we'll see. We'll find out soon enough whether I'm right.
Gene in Oakland next. Here, 888-957-9570. Hey, Gene.
Morning, fellas.
Hey.
Yeah, I, too, don't believe in them having any more road problems. I mean, they won 2 games impressively in Sacramento. And as far as believing they could win the whole thing, I felt that way since the beginning of the playoffs. And the reason is I just look at their top 8, and starting with the top 5, the big 5, I would call them now, because not only do they have the Hall of Famers, but, two-way Wiggs is back, and Looney I think has evolved into one of the best centers in the league. And you add to that GP2 and what he brings to the team. Of course, Jordan Poole, while inconsistent, he can take over, and he's actually a better defender, I think, than he used to be. And then DiVincenzo, who, surprised us or disappointed us and starting off a little slow, but started to look like what he had been the last half of the season in this last game. So if you compare those 8, with any other team that's left, I think we come out ahead. So once again, and as far as the road losses, I expect us to be the first team in NBA history to have a losing road record during the regular season and win a championship.
Appreciate the call. I mean, good stuff there. Why do you want to chime in on what Gene had to say there?
It's really difficult this year more than ever to base anything on what we saw during the regular season, because I was kind of flashing back. I remember talking to Gene during the regular year here on Warriors This Week, and I know I felt at times this year this is just not a championship team. But you look at where the Warriors are now, and the Lakers are another example. The Lakers through the regular season was just a matter of we'll figure some things out. We'll once we get to the postseason, we'll be good to go. Teams did not take the regular season very seriously this year, I think, to a larger degree than we've ever seen before. And my point here, I think that's bad for the league. But my point is, a lot of things we saw from the Warriors this year, they just don't matter now. It is a different team right now. And they entered the postseason as they did last year, like, boom, here we go, ready to go. But a lot of the Warrior issues during the regular season, I don't think they apply at all whatsoever to what's going on with the team right now.
Well, they're proving that maybe they don't as the Sacramento series went on and now into this Lakers series. I think these next 2 games will be another tell. I mean, if the Warriors can get one of these next 2 down here in L.A., then I think we can put the road stuff to bed once and for all. I don't think we're quite there. We're almost there. But if they can split these 2 in L.A. or win both, obviously, but if they can at least split, I think we can put the road stuff to bed, because they at that point would have been competitive or have won basically every single road game that they've played in the playoffs. 888-957-9570. We got 1 hour down, 2 more hours to go. It's John Dickinson and Whitey Gleason. We're with you until 1 o'clock. I am in Los Angeles ahead of Game 3 and Game 4 of the Western semifinals as the Warriors and Lakers set to go. 5:30 tip. More of your phone calls and your text messages coming up next right here on 95.7 The Game.
Did you know that most people wait 6 or 7 years before they buy a new TV? That's a lot of time in front of one TV. So why not get one of the best sets for the next 7 years, like one of the top-rated Samsung, LG, or Sony models? Too expensive? What if you could get up to $1,000 trade-in for your old set? Who would do a stupid deal like this? Right now, at Video Only, you can get big.
home court advantage for the time being off of that Game 1 victory.
Clay was so phenomenal in the second game, and of course meant so much for him to play so well against the Lakers. And I was reminded of years ago when you and I were doing kind of during the gap year, doing the pre and post. And I remember just looking at the court hours before a game and like, who's
special
that?
Season?
Yeah. Who's out there shooting all by himself? Oh, it's Clay. And it was just then to see him just filling it up against the Lakers was it's an amazing story. And I mentioned that because Clay said something really interesting to me about how important it is for him to go to L.A. and play well in honor of Kobe and Gigi. Because, of course, Clay worshipped Kobe and used to go to, when it was Staples with his dad to watch the Lakers. This was when Clay was in high school. And he's talked about how he's dedicating his effort to Kobe and Kobe's daughter tonight and in the next game because of all that they meant to him growing up.
Yeah, definitely special, and of course the ties there with Michael Thompson, who's doing the radio broadcast on the Lakers side, and yeah, I will say, Whitey, this is just kind of a quick note on that, just from walking around the area here around what used to be Staples and now is Crypto.com Arena and LA Live, and this is the first time that I've been back down here in this area since before COVID and since Kobe passed in January there of 2020, which was obviously right before COVID hit. And it was a little surreal to just kind of think of just everything that's happened in the basketball world, but in real life since the last time. I think October of 2019 was the last time I was down here for I think it was a preseason game when I stayed over after covering the 49ers playing the Rams. And I'd been down here a couple of times for 49ers-Rams since, including that NFC Championship game a couple of years back. But I hadn't actually stayed over and stayed in the area. I'd gone down and come back day of because of the timing of things. And so it was just different, kind of getting a vibe of what it used to be and coming down here a lot for whether it was Warriors-Lakers or even Warriors-Clippers, which was more the big rivalry in the most recent years, but it just kind of surreal to think of the passing of time and the passing of Kobe and relating it back to what you had mentioned about Klay Thompson trying to dedicate this series to Kobe and obviously Gigi as well.
What are you watching tonight most intently? Obviously, and I don't mean to speak for you here, maybe some of this, maybe there's other things. Obviously, we're watching the fouls tonight. We're watching which Anthony Davis shows up, and I'll be really interested to see whether JaMychal Green can take advantage of the opportunity. I think it'll be there. I don't think he'll start, but I think he's going to have an opportunity to continue to draw Anthony Davis away from the basket, but he's got to make shots. So those are three of the things that I'm really most interested in seeing tonight. How about you?
You don't think he'll start? I think I almost think I want to just kind of get into that conversation. I do think he's going to start again, and I think it's kind of to me, it's an easy way to get him some minutes, and also if he isn't good, he's basically only going to play the first 4 to 6 minutes of each half, or at least of the game. If I think if it goes really bad, maybe Kerr just doesn't even start him in the second half of the game. But I don't know. I kind of get the sense that Kerr will stick with JaMychal Green and see if it continues to work. And then if it doesn't, it's an easy adjustment to make. But you would go back to Looney, or you think Coach Kerr will go back to Looney in the starting lineup, or you think they'll start small? Or
yeah, I would guess they'll go back to Looney. I understand your point, though, and I think whether they start Green or not, the larger point, and it is a good one, but I think the larger point, he's going to have opportunities, whether that's to start the game. I do think he's going to have opportunities, but as you said, maybe a quick hook if he starts. My point is, if he's got to make shots. They're not going to just continue to throw him out there. Let's see what happens. But if he's making shots, he's going to stay on the floor, because that's obviously one of the keys for the Warriors, is to try to draw AD away from the basket. They had so much more success inside the three-point line in Game 2 than they did in Game 1. When AD in that first game, when he's on as he was, he's a top 5 player in the world. And then Game 2, he's definitely not. But there's that much, as we say now, variance in his performance. When he's on, I mean, he is an absolute handful across the board in every facet of the game.
Well, and the question then becomes, how many games can Anthony Davis be on at that level in this series? Is it 2? Is it 4? I think the Lakers probably are going to need 4 Game 1, type performances, at least 3.
And they haven't seen it at
one.
all back to back in these playoffs at all.
Yeah, so they got to be thinking, all right, well, 1, 3, 5, and 7. Those are the if it's
Yeah.
1, 3, 5, and 7, and you better win all 4, because even game 1 wound up being close down the stretch when the Warriors went small from down 14 and were able to tie that game in the final minute and a half before the Lakers ended up with the final 5. As far as adjustments, and what do you expect? 888-957-9570 from the Lakers. I think it's same soup for the Warriors side of things. Like I said, I would keep JaMychal Green in there. I would be leery of whether Jordan Poole has it or not. I thought there was a moment, this was really the first game where I thought Dante DiVincenzo in game 2 played well enough to where you could almost give DiVincenzo Poole's minutes. And I think Moses Moody then got some of DiVincenzo's minutes because DiVincenzo was getting some of Poole's minutes. I think Moody obviously got Payton's minutes, who was somebody that wasn't in the rotation in game 2, which I thought was interesting. The one thing the Warriors have to be careful of in this series, and I think it was part of why there were the changes that were made, you can't have players on the court against the Lakers who were completely non-threats offensively. And I think Payton at times, where's Payton going to score? Corner 3, dunker spot, right? Beyond that, that's it. Where's Looney going to score? Offensive rebound or a play that's made for him for a layup.
And Payton kind of fell into that trap in the first game, just to embellish your point, where he got I got an open 3 here, and he missed it. And, the Lakers are like, yeah, you keep shooting that, baby.
No, and I think the Lakers are still going to give JaMychal Green open 3s, but JaMychal Green has got the size and he is, and the ability to knock down that corner 3. So I think in some ways he is still more of an offensive threat than Payton is.
Yeah.
And for the position, obviously you're playing him at center. They did play him at power forward a little bit, which I thought was interesting. I think, if Poole isn't going to be an offensive threat, and he really wasn't an offensive threat in game 2, for as much as he is an offensive threat regularly, then if he's going to be making negative plays, you gotta try to find some alternative. And I think the Warriors in the Kings series didn't really feel like anybody else was playing well enough to take his minutes. And so you just had to ride it out and hope Poole would give you something, but also hope Poole wouldn't kill you. And so I thought game 2, they were riding that high wire, and DiVincenzo played well enough that it gave Steve Kerr another option. And Moses Moody is another player who I think is a threat. He's not a great shooter, at least he hasn't been to this point in his career, but he's a younger, a little bit more athletic, thick body type, and he has the ability to at least, again, be a threat in more ways than Payton is. And so I think that's where some of that youthful energy comes from, and the Warriors can put him on the floor. He's played really steadily in this series, and then the first series as well, and as far as Moses Moody goes. As far as some of the Laker adjustments, before we get back to the phones, Whitey, I expect the Lakers to be extremely physical. There's always the emotional adjustment. The team that loses is going to come back and really try to hit first. I think the Lakers are really going to try to grab and hold and clutch and push and move and bulldoze offense. I think they are going to try to grind the game to a halt while still playing at a pretty high pace, because they do typically play at a pretty high pace. But the physicality, I think, is something the Warriors are going to have to be ready for with the Lakers coming off of the loss in game 2.
If the officials let it go a little bit, there is some upside there for the Warriors. I agree with you. If they allow a lot of clutching and holding on the perimeter, certainly that can slow the Warriors down. But if they allow Draymond to continue to play physically against Anthony Davis, that, at least in that respect, that actually would work in the Warriors' favor.
888-957-9570. It's John Dickinson in L.A., along with Whitey Gleason here on Warriors This Week at 95.7 The Game. Let's get back to the phones, and that means Mitch joins us in Jersey. What's going on, Mitch?
Hey, Mitch.
How you doing, Whitey? John, how you doing? Hope you're having a good time down in L.A.
Oh, yeah.
Did you say are you staying in Hollywood? Well, somebody has to do it, right? So I hope you're having a nice time.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, you're right. Somebody has to do it, Mitch. Oh, poor me, Mitch. Poor me.
Hey, there should be an extra phone in your check, Whitey, because, it's making your life a little tougher there.
Right.
Working solo, with John put down there. Why don't you just continue with game plan? I like J. Michael Green. And this is, I think it's one of the funny things. Anthony Davis, they say street calls. I heard somebody, his initial stands for alternate days.
Yeah.
So, I hope we see more of also Looney having a great postseason. Anyway, thanks for taking my call.
Alternate days, yeah.
Thanks, Mitch. I do think we're going to see more of again, Jermichael Green, as we were talking about there. Go ahead, Whitey.
No, that's all I had. Minutes wise, well, we know that Kevon only played. I have it right in front of me. I apologize because it's right here in front of me. Kevon Looney played 11 minutes. Yeah, 12 if you round up. And Steve Kerr said, well, he was only going to play, no more than 20. So is he going to get more minutes tonight? Or as you suggested, J-Mike, if he's playing well, maybe he soaks up some of those minutes tonight.
What did you think of the Brian Windhorst on Kevon Looney and saying it was dubious? The fact, almost hinting that he wasn't really sick, or that the Warriors were using that as an excuse to make a lineup. Like who the Warriors could have easily made that lineup change without Looney being sick. Like I don't.
Yeah, if
that
it
was a bizarre narrative shift.
I heard something about that. It makes no sense because if you know the Warriors, they have no qualms about sitting Looney. There are some guys you might say, boy, we're going to sit him and you got to be careful. And Looney's like, yeah, whatever. That happens to me all the time. So that whole notion that it's some sort of, it was a sleight of hand. It makes no sense to me. It was ridiculous, frankly.
888-957-9570. Jonathan in Fremont next here on Warriors This Week. Hey, Jonathan.
Yeah, hey, guys. Love the show. Love both you guys. JD, great job last series covering both sides. Really appreciated all that. And Whitey, love you. I know people get you confused with Cosmore, but I'll take you any day. So thank you guys both. Just wanted to talk real quick maybe about the Lakers adjustments. We know AD's got to bring it, and they're probably dependent on that. But I'm wondering if they sub out a little bit of their starting lineup. Austin Reeves is not very impactful, and maybe you bring Schroeder back in. He tends to get to the free throw line more, kind of plays to what they maybe want to solve for on the offensive end. And then on the defensive end, I'm wondering what you guys think about them running more zones from time to time, giving their bigger, LeBron and AD a break on the defensive end, and then maybe go, like what happened with the Raptors back in those finals where they go boxing one on Curry. Just wondering what you guys think about those potential changes on the Lakers.
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan. And Whitey, too. You covered both sides.
Yes, definitely.
In the last series as well, in your own way.
Definitely did.
Hat tip to you there, sir.
Jonathan, they didn't play much zone, did they, JD? And I had a different perspective.
No.
Yeah, and the Warriors, of course, they had a lot of success with the zone late in the first game, so I thought, we're going to see more of that. Didn't really need it, which is great. It's nice to have that in the bag because it did.
And I think he was saying the Lakers might play more zone.
Wow.
I think he was saying good luck. Or go some box and one. I mean, to me, that's the last thing you'd want to do if you were the Lakers would be to play zone. Although I guess you could try to match up and
that'd
get
be tough.
out to the shooters.
Yeah.
But I just don't.
I don't see that. Maybe I misunderstood him, but I do think I'm going to be keeping an eye on how much zone the Warriors play because they did have some success with it. And it will, you see these guys have played against zones their whole lives growing up playing basketball, but NBA games, they're playing along, blah, blah, blah. They got some momentum going, and then you throw a zone at them, and it's like, oh, whoa, hold on a minute. And I think we saw that a little bit with the Lakers, and it makes sense against the Lakers because they don't shoot the ball very well, so a zone makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, and that's one thing I think the Warriors can keep in their back pocket. Didn't have to use it much, but know they can go to it in addition to the small ball lineup. But, as far as Schroeder, I don't see the Lakers putting Schroeder back in tonight. I do think it's a move they could go to if Reeves continues to struggle. Malik Beasley is somebody, though, that I know hasn't been playing for them, but did play for them down the stretch in the regular season. He would be the one Laker player that I think could get a little bit more time than he has in the first couple of games. He was a really good 3-point shooter this year.
Mm-hmm.
He's a wing defender.
Remember what he did to the Warriors? Remember what he did to them in Salt
He
Lake
gives
City?
the Warriors problems.
Yeah,
He's the kind of player that gives the Warriors problems. I was surprised, and again, I know Reeves has been playing really well, and they play Schroeder and D'Angelo Russell and the like. But I was a little surprised to see that Beasley wasn't getting some run. So I think that's one maybe that the Lakers are keeping in their back pocket as somebody that could be added as, let's say, an eighth man to their rotation with them. I mean, they're basically only playing Schroeder and Hachimura significant minutes off the bench. I could see Beasley becoming kind of their eighth here in the games in LA.
Yeah, and real quickly, I know we got a lot of people want to talk to us. We want to talk to you too. But Schroeder's one of the absolute keys here when they do have that shorter rotation. It's night and day at the Lakers. There was a lot going on, but he played so well in the first game, and that the second game he was barely there, and it has a profound impact on their overall effectiveness.
Let's go back to the phones. PG in Oakland next here on Warriors This Week. Hey, PG.
PG,
you there?
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, yeah, PG in Oakland here. Thanks for taking my call. Listen, I sit in section 102, right behind the Warriors bench, and season ticket holder. And I've had a chance to observe Poole very, very closely. He's not going to be a Warrior next year. It really looks like the whole coaching staff and the players have a disdain for this guy. That's you can Poole will be on the bench trying to talk to the guys. The guys are just kind of like, the body language is just awful. They'll turn their back to him, like they don't really want to engage him. And specifically what I saw in game 2 was we got up by 27. The Lakers called a timeout. And I took some pictures of Poole, and he literally looks like he's going to cry. I mean, this guy had no happiness for his team, for the situation. It's just all about, whether or not he was part of the reason as to why we've had some success. And it just really, really feels like he realizes that, this is all coming to an end. When they announce his name, when he comes into the game, the reaction from the fans in the crowd is just like super, super lukewarm, like a mild little clap. Jordan Poole coming into the game, clap, 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 clap. And then he realizes that, I don't know, what do you guys feel about that? We're always talking about his numbers, whether or not he had a good game or not, but I think it's gotten deeper than that. What do you guys think?
I agree. I think he's gone after this year.
It.
I don't think he's back next year, but we'll see.
No, I think there's definitely something to that, and I think it's crazy how he's fallen from fan favorite to basically the player on this roster that draws more ire from the fans now than really anyone. And there was the incident in where he started to go down the tunnel after getting subbed out, and Andre Iguodala had to go and say something to him, kind of get his composure. I know there was the Game 6 deal. I think it was Game 6 where Draymond was trying to say something to him, and he kind of brushed off Draymond, and then Steph Curry had to go over and basically tell him to act right.
Yeah.
and listen to Draymond and don't have that kind of attitude. And so, it really, it's so funny when you think, Whitey, of how the Warriors are doing enough to win, and they beat the Kings, and it's 1-1 in this series, and everybody's feeling good about where they're at going into Game 3 and Game 4 here in L.A., but yet beneath the surface, it does seem, and I think we could throw Jonathan Kuminga in this as well, who has been outwardly expressing his frustration as to not having more of a role here, and it feels like it's almost two different things going on. The Warriors are trying to win as many games as they can to compete for a championship, but they're also trying to just keep the fabric of their continuity and camaraderie and team concept together as they do it, which is a tough ask, but so far, and I think Steph gets the nod as the glue that's held it all together to this point. But it really does, in some ways, when you separate from the day-to-day and the game-to-game, feel a lot more fragile beneath the surface.
In all fairness, I know PG said he thinks this is what Poole's thinking and this is what's in his head, and we don't know that. You're making an assumption, obviously. That
True.
said, I understand where you're coming from, and I know it doesn't look good, PG, and you have a unique perspective being right there all the time. I thought it was really interesting that after game one, when Poole took the shot at the 29-footer and he missed it, that afterwards, Steve Kerr talking about it after the game with the media and also on our station, he said, I love that he took the shot, but he went on to say he probably could have been a few steps closer. That's really interesting to me that the coach, a lot of times I think a coach would say, hey, you live and die with those, whatever. The fact that Steve Kerr publicly was pointing out, and I think correctly, but hey, he could have gotten a better shot there. That was very interesting to me, and I think that speaks volumes. I think Jordan Poole is not really a warrior in the sense that we think of the guys on this team. They need him for now, and they're, as you said, JD, I think they're trying to keep it together as long as they can and getting something out of him, but I would be really surprised if after this year, if he's back. Now, maybe, if no one wants him, if his value is down that much, then you got an issue, but it does seem like, this is probably the end of the road for Jordan Poole as a warrior.
Well, and they do need him. I mean, they do need him. I mean, life is much easier on the Warriors.
That's the interesting part.
Well, and so you can't completely go away from him in the manner that you can completely go away from someone, say, like Kuminga, as the Warriors have done here for the last 3 games of the Sacramento series and the first 2 games of this series. Like, you have other options. Like, Kuminga doesn't have to play. Poole still has to play.
Right.
Because of, and maybe less given DiVincenzo's ability to play well. But tonight, there's going to be nights where the Warriors are going to be searching for offense, and they're going to need Jordan Poole to step forward and help them. I think how this thing ends matters.
Yes, great point.
We'll see.
Yeah.
But does he end up being a part of them going on to win? Maybe he is a part of them going on to win, and he wants out. The Warriors feel, all right, let's recommit to the veteran core. And if the Warriors were going to do that, Whitey, the 2 players that you would have to look to move if you were going to bring in other reinforcements would be Poole and Kuminga. I think it's interesting that Poole and Kuminga are the 2 headliners in terms of maybe being frustrated with their role and or not wanting to be here potentially moving forward. That could wind up being a problem that's tailor-made both sides, depending upon how this thing shakes out. Better for them and better for the Warriors to move on. Again, that's more a conversation for after the season ends. 888-957-9570. He's Whitey Gleason. I'm John Dickinson in Los Angeles. We'll pause. We'll come back. We're halfway through here on a Saturday on 95.7 The Game.
What are you reading?
I'm checking out the ratings on the new TVs, and it looks like Samsung, LG, and Sony got the best scores.
Just like last year. What about those new high dynamic range TVs?
They got the highest scores of all, but their prices are really high.
Did you check online?
Yeah, their prices were about the same.
Well, there's one place where we can get a hot deal on those top-rated models.
Where?
At Video Only. Check out the ratings on
Crypto.com arena for Warriors Live. And the Warriors and the Lakers tonight right here at 95.7 The Game, 5:30 tip. It's an ABC Saturday Night Showcase game of all ABC Saturday Night Showcase games. And the ratings for this series, I know the ratings at the end of the first round series got a lot of pub. The ratings have been tremendous for the early going of this series. And I think tonight and beyond are just going to continue to be record breakers with all of the star power that's on display between these two teams and the Warriors and Lakers.
If you had to have a picture taken in front of one of the Lakers statues or with JD and one of the Lakers statues, if you had to, which one would you choose, JD?
For me, it would be Magic Johnson.
Okay.
In fact, I didn't take a picture with me in the picture, but I just was, again, walking around this morning. I went and got a coffee at LA Live and crossed the street and walked, and there were a bunch of Kareem and Shaq. And exactly. With Dustin Brown of the LA Kings, Luke Robitaille. I mean, there's a bunch of different ones. Gretzky, I think, is out there on one of the ends. But Magic is the one. Magic's the one for me. I know Magic was known for his smile and the way that he played and Showtime and all of that. But when I see the Magic statue and he's got the ball in his hands and he's pointing, it's it makes me smile. When I see Magic. So that's the one for me.
All right, he was a winner. By the way, real quick before we get back to the phones, the last four franchises that have won NBA titles, the Lakers, of course, won the bubble championship. Of the last four franchises that have won NBA titles, the only one that still has the same head coach is the Warriors. Budenholzer's out now. Vogel, of course, was fired from the Lakers, and Nick Nurse was let go by the Raptors. So the last four franchises to win an NBA title, the Warriors are the only one that still has the same head coach.
888-957-9570. Yeah, how about that? Pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And Steve Kerr's done a hell of a job making adjustments. There's always the debate, do the Warriors wait too long to make adjustments sometimes in playoff series? But eventually they get there, and when they get there, the adjustments usually work. And I think we've seen that from Game 1 to Game 2. Even the end of Game 1, when the Warriors went small and were able to come back after they got down by 14. Bernardo in Marin. Let's get back to the phones. We've got a lot of people that want to talk. Bernardo is up first here this segment on 95.7 The Game. Hey, Bernardo.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Good.
Looking forward for the game today.
Mm-hmm.
I believe we're going to score a win to bring the momentum back to the Bay Area. But I wanted to take a deeper look at Draymond Green. In the first round series, everybody was criticizing him and really heavy on him because of the antics and everything else. But I'd like to know where, in your guys' opinion, where does he rank in the all-time greats on the defensive end? Because he's so versatile, he's so acute on his performances that I believe he's really underappreciated as a Warrior. And everybody's talking about the Curry legacy, LeBron's legacy, but I'd like to hear your take on Draymond's legacy.
He's a champion. He's a winner. He's one of the greatest defensive players ever to play in the NBA. And, I mean, he's been the heart and soul and the engine for better or worse. And mostly better, but for better or worse, there have been a lot of bad times where I think the fans have been down on him. I think his own teammates have been down on him. I think the organization has been down on him. But he has always had the ability, Whitey, to bounce back, and the good ends up outweighing the bad. And the reality is the Warriors need him. The Warriors aren't winning anything without Draymond Green doing the things that he does and playing at a high level. And can that be a bit of a dice roll from time to time as to maybe he's going to do something that completely takes you out of the running? Yes, he might. But at the same time, you're not winning it at all if you don't have him, so you have to risk it. And I think that's why the Warriors have stuck with them. and the Warriors sticking with him has paid dividends.
I agree with Bernardo that he doesn't get the credit that he deserves defensively. I think that's in part because there's nothing Draymond does defensively that you can really measure with a stat. You can't say he led the league in block shots 4 years in a row, because the things he does don't show up that way.
He stole Anthony Davis's soul 5 times in playoff games over the years.
There you go. But he's one of the greatest defensive players. I'm not sure where he would rank in top 10 or whatever, but he's one of the greatest, and I agree with you. I think I heard you saying this, if I understood what you were saying correctly. They don't win anything. They've won the 4. They don't win a championship without Draymond Green. They don't win any of those championships without Draymond Green. That's how impactful he is, especially defensively. And he's smart, too.
Doubt.
He's a really smart. All these guys, you don't win 4 championships without having a lot of guys who know what they're doing. And, we have culture, great coaches. Yeah, but you got to have players who understand, we're going to have to do this or this or this. I'm going to have to really apply myself. And I don't think the Warriors get enough credit for how smart they are. Not just, basketball IQ, but really smart people who understand what it takes to win.
Well, and Draymond has the ability, I think, yes, he's got a temper, and yes, he can get over the top and out of control from time to time, but he also has the ability to take a step back and watch a game where maybe things don't go his way and then come back and take advantage of it the next game. And he did that from game 1 to game 2, where he admitted that the foul trouble really screwed with his rhythm in game 1. He comes back, he's attacking the basket offensively. He's defending at an extremely high level. He made the adjustment. He made the adjustment off of the suspension game in the Sacramento series to come back and score 20-plus points in Game 5, a game that the Warriors absolutely had to have in that Sacramento series. And so I think you're right, doesn't get enough credit for the ability to make those adjustments off of poorer games. 888-957-9570. Play Fast in San Francisco next year. What's up, Play Fast?
PF.
Gentlemen, thank you for your passion. Thank you for the insights. I got a little quiz question for you. Except for this past year, when the Warriors got the rebound, who would they give the ball to? The guy they called the point forward, the gentleman who was in Bernardo's call, who would cross the timeline in 3 seconds. Who was that?
Draymond, no doubt.
Draymond Green. I realized in this last Laker game that this entire past regular season got a little frenetic in Sacramento, but I think that was more a product of the game and the tension. But we stopped playing fast. I can remember this past season actually looking at the shot clock and thinking, okay, don't forget it's 16 seconds, whereas in the bulk of the dynasty, that was not us. So people are noticing now that we're playing faster again, but it wasn't discussed much during the year. It wasn't really discussed in the Sacramento series. And I think the lineup changes are important, but I think we've got multiple lineups that can be successful if we continue to push it, even if it's not Draymond. So really my question to you guys is, was this strategy during the past year by the Warriors? Was it load management? Was it saving it? Was it people forgetting, hoping they would forget this is the way we really play? Where did that go? And will it stay back? That's my question for you guys. Thanks for all you do.
Well, thank you.
Appreciate it. I think the Warriors did play fast. I think, if anything, other teams have started to play faster over the years, and the Warriors weren't quite as efficient in playing fast as they have been compared to years past. But I think it's been there. In the Sacramento series, I do think the Warriors slowed it down a tick because they had to, just to be a little more deliberate in getting into their offense and not turning it over or taking a bad shot. But this series, you want to run, and run some more.
Yeah,
I'm with the caller on that. 100%.
Play fast, sure. And I believe I double check it, but I'm pretty sure the Warriors actually did lead the league in pace this year. So they did.
They were 1 or 2. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
they were 1 or 2.
They were right up there. And in the playoffs, things do tend to slow down. It depends. You can cherry pick a year where, no, not necessarily, but things do tend to slow down a little bit in the postseason. But yeah, I do think that's Steve Kerr, especially the smaller they are, sometimes the more you want to run, the more you want to get out on the perimeter and shoot 3-point shots. So I do think it's part of the plan this year is to be even playing at a quicker pace And I think it's especially important against the Lakers, not as important as it was against Sacramento. Because remember, Sacramento also wanted to play that way.
And the Warriors, among teams in the playoffs, are playing at the fastest pace.
Okay, thank you.
Just looking at the numbers here, they are number one. The Lakers, it looks like 7th in terms of pace. And the Lakers were a team that even though they were a more plodding team, still played at a higher pace in the regular season than I thought. I know two different teams, though. For the team they had before the trade deadline, the team, Whitey, that they had after the trade deadline.
Yeah. Boy, they were bad before they made all those moves. Remember early in the year? I mean, they earned every bit of that 2-10 start, whatever it was. They were awful. They were a joke.
That team had nothing going.
Yeah.
And this team has at least given them a chance. I mean, I like the moves going and getting D'Angelo Russell, losing Westbrook, who played much better with the Clippers. Hat tip to him. He did not fit with the Lakers.
Vanderbilt, Hachimura.
They freed up Austin Reeves to have a bigger role. Vanderbilt's a really good defender. Hachimura has helped them. Schroeder going back to more of a sixth man role because of some of the other acquisitions. I like that. And I like Malik Beasley as well, who hasn't played in this series, but we talked about, I think he could be somebody that they ultimately wind up putting into this series.
And Tristan Thompson, a huge addition. I'm kidding. I make a joke.
You know what's funny? And I'm gonna admit something that may make me sound a little not locked in. So when Tristan Thompson went in the game on Thursday in Game 2, it was a blowout, and I was kind of going through my notes, and I was sitting by the great Whitley Sandretto, our director of digital. Here at 95.7 the game. And so the game was over. I'm kind of going through my notes, getting ready for the post-game show. So I'm not really locked in on the game because the subs are in, and so I'm kind of paying attention. And all of a sudden I hear Matt Pittman, the PA, Tristan Thompson, and I'm like, I did like a double take. Like, I'm like, did he say Tristan Thompson? And then I kind of looked around and I thought, well, no, he didn't say Tristan Thompson. Like, that's somebody else. Like, it sounded like Tristan Thompson, but it's not Tristan Thompson. And then he scored again, and it was Tristan Thompson. And I looked at, and I go like Tristan Thompson, like that. I said to Whit, I said that Tristan Thompson. She's like, yeah, they signed him like on the last day of the season.
Yeah.
And I had no idea. I thought Tristan Thompson had retired and was like an analyst on ESPN or something. And I guess they did a favor. I guess LeBron wanted him to be on the playoff roster, so they did him a solid and gave him like a Haslam contract for the playoffs. But I had no idea, Whitey, and I'm a little embarrassed to admit that maybe I shouldn't be, that I did not know that the Lakers had signed Tristan Thompson at the end of the year.
Well, that's because your filter, you got a built-in filter, and some stuff, your filter, you got so much information. It's like, okay, some of the stuff doesn't matter, so I'm just not going to log it. And then Tristan Thompson signing with the Lakers, I could see how your brain, your filter system would say, we don't need to know about that. But then there he was playing in the second game, and he had, I think, 4 points and 5 rebounds or something like that.
Yeah,
didn't matter.
Yeah, a couple of buckets in mop up duty for Tristan Thompson, and that alerted me. What did you think of Schroeder, Whitey, and the leg grab? I know that's been something that's been discussed a lot, and Schroeder may be trying to get away with a few things in this series to this point. I think there's going to be a little bit of a target on him.
Yeah.
As a guy that can be a little sneaky from time to time. A little sneaky Dennis Schroeder.
Right. But don't you think, too, and you could argue that Draymond has brought some of this on himself, although a cheap play, a dirty play, there's no excuse for that. But, we saw it in Sacramento, too. I mean, players are trying to bait him. I mean, I know Sabonis grabbed his foot and then he got stomped on, but Monk had grabbed Draymond's leg, and just grabbing his foot and hanging on. So it's a dirty play. I'm with you. I'm not excusing it by any stretch, but I'm saying I do think for a lot of players, like, hey, watch this. We're going to get Draymond kicked out of this game. So it's not right. It's cheap. It's unfair. But I think we've seen it a number of times in these playoffs.
No, we have a couple of text messages to get to, and Draymond has to know that he's going to be able to hold his composure.
Yes.
In this series and in the playoffs, which is something that I think is really important. Some text messages on the Comcast Business text line from the 925. The Lakers complaining about the refs is an absolute joke. Off of the first two games of this series. what did you think of that? Because it felt, I was talking to Dibbs yesterday on the afternoon show.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like when we get into Laker adjustments, it seemed like the number one Laker adjustment on their board was to complain about the officials. Like, hey, what? And almost intimate that, hey, we need a big time foul advantage, and if we don't get the big time foul advantage, we can't hang with this team.
Yeah, well, and they complain by not complaining, right? Because it's like, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to complain. I don't want to get fined. So, yeah, we know what you're saying. But that's it. If the foul discrepancy or if the foul's called or anything close to even in any of these games, the Lakers have to let the officials know because their survival depends on them getting that kind of advantage. They got it all year long. Some of that was earned. That's the way they play. But I, as I said earlier, if they get a discrepancy similar to the first game, they have a chance to win. If they don't get more free throws than the Warriors, I don't think they have a very realistic chance to win these games. So, of course, they're going to complain about it. It's a matter of survival for them.
A couple other ones, 925. So glad Whitey is back for the Saturday show. So, yeah, hat tip to
thank you
to that texter. Whitey, nice job. We appreciate your
Good
wife chiming
back.
in on the text line. Christina.
Yeah. Very nice.
More text messages. We were talking about Klay Thompson defensively. JD, it seems like Klay's much better with guys who operate slower, more mechanical, lacked major lateral quickness. Russell is a tortoise, and so Klay was able to hang with them. That was one Warrior adjustment that really did work in Game 2, switching up some of the matchups as far as who was defending who, and it worked in the Warriors' favor.
Has Klay improved defensively over the course of the year? I want to say I think he has. It's so hard to know.
Yeah.
Now they're putting him on the ball.
He's just up and down. I feel like Whitey, I apologize for jumping in on you there,
please.
but I feel like his defensive game and his offensive game, there's just there's a higher variance. There's games where he's awesome, and it feels like he's either awesome or he's terrible. And so it just, you kind of don't know night to night what you're going to get. I do give him credit, because there were two games in the Kings series specifically, and one of them was Game 7, where I thought he started off bad and got it together quickly. I think Game 4 was another one where he started off bad in Game 4 of the Sacramento series, but then got it together quickly and hit some really big shots and was stable defensively in that game. Ended up having, I think, one of the best plus minuses on the team in that game. And so I think there's just a high variance now for Klay. You know, the good are really good, the bad are bad, and there have been fewer of these in between games. But yeah, Klay on D'Lo was one thing. Draymond obviously on Anthony Davis was another adjustment. They put JaMychal Green on Vanderbilt, and they moved Curry, who Curry was on Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt was on him. Curry was on Vanderbilt in Game 1, and the Warriors put Curry on Austin Reeves in Game 2, at least at the beginning. So the Warriors did switch up the matchups in Game 2.
I don't have numbers to back this up, and I'll see if I can find some. But to my eye, I agree with you that Klay, there's a lot of variance there. But to me right now, his defensive highs are higher than they were earlier this year and certainly last year. And like I say, I think I'm seeing that. I'm not sure. That it seems like Steve Kerr has more faith in putting him on the ball than he did when Klay was earlier in his recovery, which makes sense. But also something that stood out to me about the Sacramento series, there were times like Herter guarding Klay, and Klay's a mismatch again. You know, Klay, when he came back, he'd hunt a lot of shots, and he was looking for stuff on the perimeter. But when he had that baseline shot over Herter, it's like barbecue chicken. Herter had no chance against Klay. And it's the first time I've really noticed that about Klay and anybody really since he came back from his, catastrophic injuries.
A couple of more on the Comcast Business text line. We're talking about Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole will likely be moved in the offseason. The 510 chiming in, Whitey, if the Warriors end up playing every other day for 34 days, they will need Kuminga to contribute. I know he hasn't played well, but wouldn't it be good to get him in games now, even if it's just for a few minutes?
Here we go again with Kuminga.
Yeah.
Here we go again.
I'm going to violate the rule that I set yesterday, and really it started with Thursday night on the post game. And, I think we have to stop talking about Kuminga until he actually gets in. I think we can all see why he's not playing. I think, and I've run through this a few times. I'll do it one more time. But, he was bad in Game 1 against the Kings. Kerr gave him another chance in Game 2. He was the worst player on the floor in Game 2. He was a -10 in 4 minutes, and he gave up all 10 points. He gave up 10 straight points. It wasn't just, I know you on the plus minus, you can't look at plus minus for short searches. He literally gave up all 10 points. So
I shouldn't laugh, but it's a good point.
He was out of the game there, and then I think Kerr was going to be done with him for that series after Game 2, but Draymond gets suspended. Gary Payton had an illness, so Kuminga got a third opportunity in Game 3. He did okay in Game 3. He made a couple of plays in Game 3. The Warriors won in blowout fashion. They played from ahead in that game, and because he played all right in Game 3, I think Steve Kerr gave him another shot in Game 4, and he was just as bad in Game 4 as he was in Game 2, -8 in a quick 3 minutes, and at that point, he was done for the series, and rightfully so. Now, on paper, Whitey, I think he would figure to have played more in this series against the Lakers going in than the Sacramento series. I think part of the reason he hasn't gotten the opportunity in the first 2 games, or at least in the first game, is some of this other stuff now with the reporting on the Curry speech that, sources, according to Marcus Thompson and Shams, that Curry's message about everybody being on board was directed at Kuminga and Poole. But Kuminga, part of that is maybe, pouting about lack of playing time.
Mm-hmm.
If he's pouting about not playing in the Kings series as bad as he played in the Kings series, then that is enough for Steve Kerr alone to say, well, you're not playing in the next series until there's an injury or foul trouble or an emergency. And so, look, I don't think it's a big deal that Kuminga's not playing. There's been this gap, I think, that's developed between the level of player that the fans think Kuminga is right now and the level of player that he actually is. I think there are a lot of Warrior fans that think Kuminga right now is a much better player than he actually is. That's not a statement to what his future can be. I actually don't think his future is all that screwed up. He just can't help him really right now. And so I said this, I've said it a couple times. This is the last time I'm going to say it, and I'll let you comment on it. The play for Kuminga now is to wait like Moses Moody did for foul trouble or somebody else to play his way out of the rotation or an injury. Be ready. Steve Kerr's going to tap him. He's going to go in the game and be ready. And if you play well like Moody did, and Moody only got his opportunity because Kuminga was so bad in Game 2 that Steve Kerr kind of said, all right, I'll throw Moody in there and we'll see. And then Moody played well enough to keep playing now for the last 7 games. That Kuminga's just going to have to wait for his turn, Whitey, and do it and hope for the best once he gets out there.
Obviously, he's still developing. If what may be true is true that he's pouting, we don't know that, but I know how it looks, and I know what's been reported. That's part of his development is for Steve Kerr to send him the message.
There were some
that
cryptic tweets.
Yeah,
too,
I understand that, but yeah, and I don't know it for fact. I understand it. My point is, if that's going on at all, then it's part of his development for the coach to say, you ain't playing. This is the playoffs. There's no room for that. I will also say this. I remember earlier this year when the Lakers were playing the Warriors. I'm sure you remember this, when the Lakers just gave him, like, go ahead, whatever you want. And so would that be part of how would he respond to that now? The Lakers do that more extremely than just about any team in the league where they'll just leave you alone. Does he have the wherewithal to figure that out? And then thirdly and finally, in terms of this particular series, I know some people were suggesting Thursday when I was in for Willard, people saying, hey, maybe he could guard LeBron. Maybe he could, but right now, I'm not that worried about LeBron. I hate to say that because I know it's LeBron, but the first 2 games, he's a good player. But I'm not sitting there going, man, how am I going to stop LeBron? Because whether it's because of his injury or whatever, I mean, he hasn't really hurt me that much. So I'm not that worried about my LeBron stopper right now. Maybe I will be tonight, but right now I'm not.
All right, 888-957-9570, 2 hours in the books. We got 1 hour to come. We'll get back to the phones here. Game 3 adjustments. What are you bracing for if you're the Warriors, and how confident are you that the Warriors have the Lakers figured out? I think a lot of Warrior fans are feeling good. We'll continue the conversation here on 95.7 The Game.
Ember Stomp 2023, Marin's Wildfire Prevention Festival. A free event for the whole family. Live music, demonstrations, fire smart landscaping, goats, and games. Learn new ways to protect your home and enjoy a fun day with our community. May 20th, Marin Civic Center Fairgrounds.
95.7 The Game. Warrior fans feeling good about the Dubs' ability to blow the Lakers out in quarter 2 and 3 of game 2. They win that one 127-100, so the series is tied at a game apiece. And I think, Whitey, Warrior fans are feeling a lot more confident than a 1-1 series would normally have a fan base feeling, especially when it's 1-1 and you are the team that, at least for the time being, has given up the home court advantage.
And I think part of that is because the Lakers do rely so much on getting to the line. I just noticed this number, JD. I don't know if this means anything. I think if it means anything, that's good news for the Warriors. But real quick, during the regular year, free throws attempted per game, Lakers were number 1 in the league, 26.6 per game, and the Warriors were last at 20.2. Okay, that's during the regular season. Real quickly here, in the postseason this year, and I know we haven't played a lot of games, but for the postseason so far, the Warriors and the Lakers are each team, they're attempting 22 free throws per game. They're tied. So the Warriors are 6 and the Lakers are right there with them. So, and the Warriors have played 9 games, Lakers 8. So there are indications here. And I know, one game like we had in the last game, or 2 games ago especially, can throw these numbers out of whack. But what we saw during the regular year has not been the case during the postseason from the free throw line. And I do think, as I said earlier, I think you agree, the Lakers need to get to the line a lot to have a chance really to win this series. And so far in the postseason, they have not been getting to the line with the frequency that we saw during the regular season.
No, they haven't. And another interesting note that I saw on this was when you look at the percentage of drives or the attempted drives, the Warriors and Lakers for the playoffs, they both drive the fewest amount of times to the basket, which I think is interesting when you start to look at some of the free throw disparity, not in game 2, but just more in general. And so I know there's been this back and forth debate as far as, what is going on as far as, are the Lakers the team that drives more? I know the Lakers are the team that has the reputation of being the team that drives more.
Right.
But how this game is officiated tonight, I don't want to make too many opinions on it going in, but it is something that I think everybody's going to keep an eye on. And one interesting note, Sam Esfandiari of the Light Years podcast, he and I had forgotten about this, and I don't really keep that close of tabs on it, but he notes that David Guthrie and Bill Kennedy both were Game 6 Warriors-Kings officials.
Oh.
So take with that what you will.
Huh. Okay. All right.
Again, presented without comment. David Guthrie, Bill Kennedy, Mitchell Irvin, the 3 officials tonight here at Crypto.com Arena in Game 3.
Well, it's always a big issue during any basketball game, especially during the NBA playoffs, but especially during this series. How they call the game is going to be really important. But it's like a friend of ours, Bill Horrenda, used to tell me, officiating in basketball, if you're playing, it's one thing if you're a fan. If you're playing, it's like the weather. You just you can't do anything about it. If it's cold, you put a sweater on. So if they're calling the game a certain way, you just got to play differently. So that's what the players will be faced with in this series.
All right, let's get back to the phones. 888-957-9570. Peter in Saratoga next here on Warriors This Week on 95.7 The Game. Hey, Peter.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
We got you loud and clear.
Okay, anyway, you can hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. I called after game 1, I called Steiny up, and I pointed out that you can't, in today's NBA, you can't win with only 3 shooters on the floor, or he referred to them as scorers. And that's why with Draymond and Looney starting, they can drop Davis back to protect the rim. They can double-team Curry or Clay, and they get beat. And, Mike Brown somehow knew this, and he didn't cover Draymond or Looney, and now Darvin Ham did the same thing. So, miraculously, in Game 2, Looney has the flu, so they have to start to Michael Green. And Kurtenbach wrote an article the next day saying that was a miracle because he said the same thing I did. You can't win with 3 players on the floor against 5. And they don't guard Draymond, and he can get wide-open layups if he chooses to. That one game where he had 20, he found out nobody's guarding me. I'm alone at the foul line, so he got some layups. But I think the key tonight is if they start Michael Green. If they start Looney and Draymond, then go bet on the Lakers because you can't beat 5 again with 3. And it's that simple. You can analyze everything else to death, but 5 against 3 is not a good matchup, and Curry gets double teamed. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
No doubt. And the Lakers were able to build a wall, and the Warriors drove it incessantly into that wall, and they were able to block 10 shots, only 3 in Game 2. That is part of why I do think JaMychal Green, while not a great scorer, but a threat to score at a greater extent than Kevon Looney is, winds up getting the start. And then if it doesn't work, you pull him right out real quick, and you go to some other options.
JD, what am I missing? Peter, Peter, pardon me for interrupting there. Peter obviously knows what he's talking about, but you asked me about this earlier. What is it with this notion that, miraculously, Kevon Looney got the flu? Well, I don't understand that narrative that there was something, nefarious that the Warriors were plotting. Why wouldn't they just say, we're benching Looney if that's what they were doing? Why do people think they had to make up an excuse?
They would have, and I think when JaMychal Green starts Game 3 tonight, assuming he does, that's what it'll be. I mean, Kevon Looney, by the way, is not on the injury report, so he's fine.
Yeah,
and this was something that, like they said, popped up. Yeah, there was no reason to announce some kind of fake sickness for Looney to get him. They could have just announced a different starting lineup. I mean, that happens all the time. You can do that any game. You don't have to submit your starters officially until 30 minutes before the game. So it doesn't matter. So okay. I don't know, but shout out to Kurtenbach. Who wrote about it, so it must be true. Ray in Watsonville next here on 95.7 The Game. What's going on, Ray?
Hey, Ray.
Hey, you guys, enjoying the talk show. Hey, I'm with the conspiracy there with Looney being sick. I mean, come on, I heard the announcers say, well, if he was sick, then why do they let him sit on the bench, get other people sick? So I think it's all right. But anyhow, hey, back in 2015 when they won their first championship, and then so on and so forth, they won 67, 73, and I think they won 65 games. And realizing how, the regular season is what it is, but where you really want to play is in the playoffs. And I think that what I've seen over these last 2 championships that they've won, Kerr is being able to come out and get a game plan. And you think of all their championships, they never lost in the Western Conference, right? 19-0, and then in the championship, they've only lost, twice to Cleveland and Toronto. Both one 6th game, the other one was the 7th game. And I just think that they're built for the playoffs, and I think that the guys that they brought up, the rookies, I mean, just being able to watch and see and let that be part of their game going forth, I think that's only going to help them. If they don't, then I think it's time to move them on. What do you guys think?
Thanks for the call, Ray. What do you think, Whitey?
I didn't quite catch. It's time to move him on. I didn't quite catch the gist of his comment at the end there.
He was talking about the young players, right?
Okay.
Was he talking about? I thought he was talking about the young players.
Yeah. I mean, it's different now. It's one thing, and I think Steve Kerr makes this point all the time. Says we're a different team than we were. I understand the temptation to say they've never done this under Kerr and they've always done this. I mean, we're talking like 2015. That was a long time ago. And I know some of the same principles are there, but I'm reluctant to apply anything that happened in 2015, 16, even 17, 18 to what's going on now. I understand the whole point of it, but I think Steve Kerr has shown, just for example, by what he did in last game, starting JaMychal Green, where this is all different now. This is new, and none of that stuff necessarily matters, JD.
They're just trying to come up with, I think, a means to get through every single night and give themselves the best chance to win, to survive in advance.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what the playoffs are all about. Survive and move forward and then see where you are once you get to that next series. And so there is and I think it's been this way since Game 2, really, of the Sacramento series, when the Warriors went down 0-2. It's been just fight and scratch and claw, and they've felt up against it really in every game, other than maybe Game 6 against the Kings when they had the 3-2 lead, and that was the one time where it was like, okay, this team's got a little bit of breathing room, and they gave that breathing room back. They played their worst game of the playoffs to date.
That was shocking.
And so, they had to cobble together a Game 7, and they did with Steph going nuclear and doing what he did. So impressive stuff there. Let's keep it rolling on the phones. Chandler and Alameda next here on Warriors This Week as we keep it rolling. 888-957-9570. Hey, Chandler.
Hey, how are you?
We're doing well. We're doing well this morning.
Hello?
Hello, Chandler.
Here.
You are on the air.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We
What's
got
on your
you.
mind?
Hey. Well, it's very different from what everybody else has been sharing. I think this is my second call to you, and my first call was 2 days before Game 7. I shared a very powerful tool that day called the OODA loop. But before I mention that, I wanted to say that a couple of years ago, going on 2 years now, I had a pretty severe brain concussion. And since then, I've been indulging in what I call bibliotherapy. That is, I do a heck of a lot of reading. I look for information that can help me become the person that I am becoming, and the person that I was is still here. I'm trying to retrieve myself. What I said that day was that long time ago, I was the only girl on a basketball team. I participated in all sports, and lately, as of last year, I became a Warriors fan. What I observed last year was that all sports, to me, seem like kind of a moving chess game. It's an intellectual activity.
Yes, it's a good point. It is, especially this series.
Thanks, Chandler.
Yeah.
Appreciate the call.
Mm-hmm.
And
the last series, too, was a real
Chandler calling
interesting chess match as well.
And Chandler had a wonderful call after Game 7 about just the power of Gary Payton and Steph Curry and just everything he did in terms of leadership. It was really a tremendous call. So we appreciate Chandler for checking in. But we do have a bunch of people that want to talk here at 888-957-9570, including Eddie in Richmond, who is up next here on 95.7 The Game. Hey, Eddie, good Saturday afternoon to you. No longer the morning. I lost track of time here. What's up, Eddie?
Hey, what's going on, fellas?
Hey.
I really do think, I don't know if everyone's talked about it, just got on the call or got on the radio, but just talking about Steph and how he shoots at Crypto/Staples. I went online. I saw the 7 last 8 games, including that play-in. He shot less than 37%. So I don't know if it's about the lighting, because the world's greatest shooter has a difficult time at Crypto. So kind of opens it up, that conversation, is that whether he gets double teamed or not. I think it's how he shoots. And I don't know if you guys kind of seen that trend whenever they play away, because I don't know. I'm hoping he breaks it out, but he historically doesn't shoot well down Staples/Crypto.
Yeah, Eddie, thanks for the call. It's not something that we had mentioned on the show, but that is something that comes up every single time the Warriors play down there. And for whatever reason, he shot it much better when it's a Clipper game versus when it's a Laker game. Yes, the lighting is different in that building for those two. It's the theater lighting for the Laker game, where it's darker in behind the basket and in the stands. It's darker, but then the court is lit up like a stage almost effect, whereas for Clipper games it is much brighter. It's the same just bright arena, and it is one of the brighter arenas when the Clippers are playing there by comparison. So I don't know what it is. It's something Steph's been asked about in the past. It is something that does come up when the Warriors play there. And
how far back does that go? Because when Luke Walton coached the Lakers, even when they weren't very good,
time.
Yeah, because even when they weren't very good and Luke Walton coached the Lakers, they would play the Warriors pretty tough down there, because obviously he was so familiar with their offense. So I'm wondering if maybe that has had something to do with at least the early part of this negative trend for Steph playing against the Lakers down there. I'm not worried about it.
You can't really worry about it, but it is something that does come up.
Sure,
and the shooting for the Warriors in the first 2 games from 3 is a huge part of their success. And so when you start looking at what holds up or doesn't, I think you could make the case, and we had a texter, I think our buddy Greg in San Francisco said, hey, the Warriors made 21 threes in each of the first 2 games. The Lakers are lucky at this point to get a split when you look at that. Well, I also don't think you can assume that the Warriors are going to continue to make 21 threes for the rest of this series, especially in these games that are going to be played on the road. And so, whether Curry is part of that, and you look at Curry, 3 for 5 in more limited shooting from 3 in game 2, 6 of 13 in game 1, one of the 3 Warriors who hit 6 3-pointers at a pretty high percentage in game 1, with Jordan Poole and Klay Thompson being the other 2. It is going to be something to monitor. I mean, you got him. The name of the game is making shots, and as we talked about, what can the Lakers do to try to impact the Warriors? Well, it's ramp up the defense and make life more difficult on the Warriors to make shots. Like, that's the one thing, Whitey. I'm not assuming that the Warriors are just going to go down there and shoot really well like they have in these first 2 games.
And then remember also in the last game, we all know Steph Curry only took 12 shots. The Warriors were in a situation where the Lakers did a good job getting the ball out of his hands, and he still had a great game with 20 points and what do you have, 12 assists. So he may not have to shoot the ball a lot for them to have success, but I have a feeling they will need more offense from him tonight.
888-957-9570. Do we still have Filmo Mike?
We do.
We do. Filmo Mike next here on Warriors This Week. What's up, Filmo?
What's up, Filmo?
Oh, what's up, man? What's up, Michael, Tyler, Whitey, Gleason,
Jamichael,
JD. Hey, you know what? People don't give Steve Kerr his flowers, man. Steve Kerr is a hell of a coach. People be like, he's trash. What are y'all smoking? What are we smoking? What are we drinking? You had Hennessy yesterday? Cinco de Mayo? No. Steve Kerr is a hell of a coach. He pulls the buttons. It takes a lot. It takes a whole lot to be able to pull the lever, pull this lever, and make it happen. You got to give him his credit, give him his due. He's a hell of a coach. I don't want to hear anybody talking about Steve Kerr can't coach, because that's the last thing he cannot do. He can coach his ass off, man, for real, for real. Give him his credit. He may not be the biggest tactician, but the man can coach. You see the last 3 coaches that won championships, all good coaches, they're fired.
Gone.
He's been all over it, Filmo. And again, it's knowing when to make an adjustment, knowing how many cards you have to play in a particular playoff series and when to go with what. And I think that's where the Warriors have been really good at over the years. And they've had the most talented team for the most part. Maybe not this year, at least based on the regular season. But Steve Kerr has known when to, all right, we're going to go small now. We're going to make a lineup change now.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to sub this guy in. We're going to sub that guy out. We're going to start to play a little bit faster or a little bit more steady, although they never admit that they're going to play slower ever, although I think they did play a little slower against the Kings as that series went on, and it worked to their benefit. So it's knowing the timing of making the right adjustment at a moment in which the opposition doesn't have enough time to be able to adjust back and maybe figure out your adjustment. And I think that is a key component. And there's been a lot of, I know it's different sports, but there's been a lot of Bruce Bochy, I think, in Steve Kerr, in just hitting the right note at the right time and being unafraid to do something unpopular or uncomfortable, whether it's take somebody that's been a regular starter out of a rotation or play them less or not play them at all. And I think not playing Kuminga is something that's been difficult for him to do, but it's been the right move. Like, he knows how popular a player Kuminga is. He knows how much it's hurting Kuminga to not be out there, and that maybe he is pouting about it, and that's something that they hope doesn't impact his future. But he's had to do it because it's helped them win in the playoffs to this point. Giving Moses Moody a shot when he hadn't. All of those things are feathers in the cap of Steve Kerr, Whitey.
Real quick, there's a guy we both know. I know I mention him a lot. I hope it's not redundant, but Jerry Reynolds used to coach the Kings. I do a podcast with him, and I was talking to Jerry yesterday about the Warriors, and this is a guy that coached in the league. He was an assistant forever. He was a GM, and he was a broadcaster forever, so he's got a really unique perspective on the NBA and what the Warriors have done. And he said to him, He said the Warriors, all the success they've had, he said it comes down to two guys. It comes down to Curry and it comes down to Kerr. And I think, Curry gets a ton of credit, obviously, and deserves it. But I'm with Filmo. Steve Kerr, for some reason, still doesn't get, I don't think, the credit he deserves. I also think Steve Kerr doesn't care about that, which says a lot about him. But this is from someone with a unique perspective on the league. It's about two guys with the Warriors. Above all, it's about Steph Curry and it's about Steve Kerr. You're right, Filmo. He doesn't get the credit he deserves.
888-957-9570. We'll pause here. We'll come back. We got one final segment as we get you closer to the Warriors and the Lakers, Game 3 from Los Angeles. It's all coming up right here. Warriors This Week, 95.7 The Game.
So, how's your research going?
Surprising. After I figured out the top-rated TVs in our price range, I went shopping for deals.
And who's the best?
It wasn't the internet, and it wasn't the warehouse club.
But?
It was video only. They had better deals on the Samsung, LG, and the Sony TVs that got the highest scores.
Better than online?
on my call screen here.
Okay.
In LA. So
I gotcha.
I'm going to let you pick among the litter of calls that we have here on the board to get back to the people.
888-957-9570. Let's go to Rathford in Oakland, JD. Rathford, you're on Warriors This Week with JD and Whitey. What's going on?
Oh, I'm excited to talk with you guys. I'm from Oakland, California,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been watching the Warriors for the last 10 years. And what I'm trying to say is that LeBron, he's very confident in what he do. He's got confidence when they lose or not. But I just want to say that I respect Curry because Curry is showing everybody like 5'7" that they can play. I played 5'7" with a Skyline in Oakland, California 10 years before Peyton. But I want to say that Curry, I have a confidence in the Warriors today because he's an all-around shooter. He knows how to pass. He knows how to shoot. He knows the game. He knows exactly where his men are. And I respect it because I believe that they core of players like Clay and Draymond and Curry himself, they've been together for a long time, and it's kind of hard to get another team like LeBron. All his championships has been with different teams, okay? Different teams. He had other people behind him, and I believe if he would have stayed on the same team that Curry did, he wouldn't be in that situation. But all I wanted to say is I'm glad to be on the station. Look me up, Oakland Tribune. I was Don Pontiac Player of the Week for Skyline. And
Nice.
Look up Eric Bernstein. He was 6'9" center for Skyline, and he played behind the Celtics, okay, under
Gotcha.
Larry Bird. But I just want to give my dues
Thanks,
to
Radford.
Thank you, Rathford. Appreciate it. Thank you for listening.
Appreciate
I think the most
we need a little drip sound effect.
of all the things Steph Curry's done, maybe the most impressive to me, JD, is that since last year in the finals, in some ways he's gotten better. He did some things last year against the Celtics that the last few critics he had to laugh. Well, he can't do that. He can't beat a team by himself. And he's done that. And then this year in the postseason, he's already in this postseason alone, in my opinion, had two signature games, the 50-pointer, and then I think in some ways the last game was a signature game for Steph Curry to do what he did on only 12 shots.
No doubt. And I know we talked earlier about Anthony Davis and the big game that he had in Game 1 and how the Lakers are going to need Anthony Davis to have more games like that if they're going to hang in this series. We were talking about the Warriors shooting and how I don't think you can realistically expect them to hit the three ball in LA at the level they hit the three ball in the two games at Chase Center. But I also think there hasn't been a Curry offensive in terms of scoring explosion game. A little bit in Game 1, but 27, modest for Steph. Remember, it was a lot early and a lot late for Steph in that one. He had, I think, 10 early, and then he had 14 in the fourth quarter as the Warriors were coming back, but only 3 in the middle 2 quarters. It was kind of a quiet game for Steph. The 20, but he did everything else in getting teammates involved in Game 2. The Warriors have to like the fact that they haven't had a nuclear Steph game yet. And I don't know if it's coming in Game 3 or 4, but there's 1, maybe 2 of those games coming where he can almost win it for the Warriors, potentially single-handed. And so I think that's when you start looking at things the Warriors can keep in their back pocket right there for them.
Yeah, I do think the Lakers are going to be, as you said, they'll be as physical as they are allowed to be tonight, and I think a lot of that is going to be focused not only underneath the basket, but on the perimeter and on Steph Curry specifically.
Let's go to Carol in San Francisco next here, 888-957-9570. Hey, Carol, you're on 95.7 The Game.
Hello. Long-time listener, first-time caller, total San Francisco native. Love the Warriors from when I've been a kid and have watched their ups and downs over the years. My comments are about Kuminga and a little bit about Wiseman, too. And there's a saying when you're looking at yourself and your place in the world that everybody wants to be a big fish in a small pond. And that was true for Kuminga. He had that powerful slam dunk and the quickness at the basket, and he enjoyed great success coming up. Wiseman, he was the tallest kid in the gym. I'm not saying there was a no-fail for him, but certainly he had an advantage, and that kind of stayed in their heads. they came into the NBA, and suddenly Kuminga is somewhat predictable under the basket, and there's a lot of big men that know he might be coming that way and will stop him. Wiseman, I don't know. He just sort of fumbled around a little bit and didn't work. But that's my thoughts about big fish in small pond. And I love the Warriors training staff and conditioning, because that's what's going to win it, motivation and conditioning. And thank you very much. Bye now.
Thank you very much for the call. Really good call. And, yeah, the conditioning component is, I think, what the Warriors are banking on in this series as a team that's used to running and playing at a high pace, and the Lakers unable to keep up. As far as Kuminga and the young players and all of that, I think Kuminga is still going to have a really good career. Again, it's two different conversations for me.
He's had a good season, too, overall. I think you'd have to say a pretty good season.
I think his development, like the Warriors carved out a way for him to try to help this team. I don't want to get in the two timeline part of it necessarily, but it really is in some ways. You have the player that you believe Kuminga eventually will be, and you almost have to cast that aside right now. It's there, but you cast that aside, and if you're the Warriors, you look at, well, what the player that he eventually will be is not the player that you need for him to be able to play on this team right now. It's two different players, basically. And whether it's fair or unfair to Jonathan, and I think the Warriors, even Steve Kerr would probably say it's unfair that they're asking him to do it, but they want him to be able to fit his game in a certain box to be able to play, and he hasn't been able to do that consistently when he's been asked to do certain things, but with a lesser role. And so it's natural for a young player to feel that way, or maybe pout, or not feel like he's a part of what's going on. Like, all that's natural, but it even if it's not fair to him, that doesn't mean that he just gets to play because it's not fair to him. Like, it means, no, the Warriors have to try to win these games, and so he goes to the back burner until another opportunity arises via foul trouble or injury, or maybe somebody else playing their way out of the rotation, and then he has to be ready for that moment in that vein. So I know a lot of people, and he's talented as all get out, the athleticism, and I'm with you. You said it, I thought, beautifully. Like, I don't think this season is some kind of failure. I just think there's some unrealistic expectations among the fans as to how good Kuminga is as a player right now. Like, I think there's a certain percentage of the Warrior fan base that thinks he should be going mano a mano with LeBron and handling him and showing that he's going to be the next big wing player in the league. And it's like, you know what? There's plenty of time for that. Maybe that's 2025, 26, but it doesn't have to be right now. It's okay.
As far as the two timeline thing, which I'll just address quickly because you brought it up. I didn't bring it up. You brought it up. I think at this point, it doesn't look great, like it's going to work out. We don't know, but it looks like, But let's say, they have a chance to win a championship this year. If they win a championship this year, it almost doesn't matter that the two timeline thing hasn't worked out. And that's too hypothetical. Really, it's like, well, okay, but we won another championship, so it doesn't matter. Kuminga, I'm still going to be interested to see if there's an opportunity for him to play a role in this series. I say that because I know being in with Tibbs a couple days ago, and we were on, doing the crossover with Steiny and Evan, and Steiny still, at least he thought before the second game, I don't know what he thinks now, but he thought maybe Kuminga's a guy that, if you need to attack Anthony Davis, didn't have to in the last game, but if you need somebody to take on Anthony Davis to try to get him away from the basket or in foul trouble, Kuminga's one of the guys who could do that. So that's another thing to keep an eye on in this series going forward. He's going to get his opportunities at some point. He's too talented. If not this round, perhaps in the next round. But yeah, if he is upset or unhappy and that's showing in any way, then he needs to be taught right away, as Steve Kerr is teaching him, that not in the playoffs, we don't know. That is just not acceptable. That's not the way you behave if you're on a championship basketball team.
Yeah, and again, I think he probably, going back to Kuminga, would have played more had it been, had maybe some of the stuff about him pouting not
maybe
come out. Because I think there's clearly Whitey some truth to what's going on there. And it's like, well, I can't. Then he's gonna go farther to the back burner.
Absolutely.
At that point,
you can't reward that. Oh, you're unhappy that you're not playing. Well, then you're gonna have to play more. It's like, nope, that's not the way it works.
888-957-9570, 888-957-9570. John Dickinson here with Whitey Gleason as I come to you from Los Angeles on 95.7 The Game as the Warriors and the Lakers, Game 3, Western semifinals, set to go 5:30 here on 95.7 The Game. And you look at Warriors Live coming up in the 4 o'clock hour as I'll be there from Crypto.com.
What's your setup like at the arena? Do you know yet what your setup will be at the Crypto?
Yeah, I would imagine. I don't know yet. I would imagine in the past when I've been there, it's usually up very high. It's usually in the hockey press box.
I just don't want you to be in the cell block like we were in at Golden One before that.
No cell block. I think I'm going to be up in one of the hockey booths.
Okay.
Up very high, but basically could almost touch the roof.
Wow.
Of the crypt. And so, no, looking forward to it. No place I'd rather be. Should be a lot of fun. And look, these series, the first game, especially the first 2 games, kind of a feeling out process. Once you get into game 3, 4, and 5, I mean, that's when these series really, really get heated and really get competitive. And I think everybody was expecting the series to be a deep 6 or 7 game series going in, and I still think it shapes out to be that way. And the stars are going to be out tonight. I'm interested to see what the Laker crowd is like, how many Warrior fans are able to make the trip and get down and get in the building. I think Laker crowds over the years, I think get a little bit of a bad rap from some of the times that I've been here.
They've been good this year in the postseason. They've been very strong. They really have been.
That they're a little soft and laid back, and it's that LA vibe. I mean, this is really the first time in a decade because they didn't have home games during COVID in the bubble when they won the title. So this is really the first time in a decade that the Lakers and their fans have been able to have meaningful basketball in the building. So I think it's going to be an electric and even more edgy atmosphere than we traditionally see and hear from this building. 888-957-9570. Alex in San Jose. We keep it rolling on the phones here on Warriors This Week on 95.7 The Game. Hey, Alex.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good. What's up, Alex?
No, I just wanted to, I think, each series is about matchups, so I think that, maybe Kaminga might be used. It just depends on who they're playing. Like, Michael Green stepped in, he did pretty well, and then it was because Looney was sick, but still, so another team, maybe Kaminga plays better. I think just saw who they're playing. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, no doubt. And I think a lot of people thought the Lakers would be a team that he might be able to play against. I think he gets looped in, though, to the category that we talked about in the first hour when we were discussing how you can't have players that aren't a threat offensively. And I think a lot of people are saying, JD, what are you talking about? Kuminga's a threat offensively. He's a threat offensively when he's cutting and or getting out in transition off of his own defense. Yeah. And he's not really a threat offensively in the half court. And one thing, independent of all the other things we've talked about with Kuminga specifically, how bad he played against the Kings, which I think is part of why he's not playing, the pouting, which I think is part of why he's not playing. I think the other part of why he's not playing is the game back in February. It was February the 23rd, I believe. It was the first game after the All-Star break. The Warriors were down in Southern California, and I believe Steve Kerr started Kuminga. They moved Looney to the bench. They started Kuminga. Wiggins was obviously still out. That was the second game that Wiggins missed in the last 2 months. And they started Kuminga at the 4, moved Draymond to the 5. DiVincenzo was the 3. And the Lakers completely did not guard Kuminga on 3 straight possessions to start that game.
Yes.
And he took 3 really bad threes and missed all of them and missed them badly.
He played right into their hands on that, yes.
And it led Steve Kerr to say after the game, hey, like, Jonathan, you don't have to take that shot. You have to recognize that the defense wants you to take that shot. And like you said, you're playing and keep the ball moving and run a dribble handoff or make a quick pass and cut. Don't feel like you have to take that shot just because the defense is. And they were wing threes. They were not corner threes. And I think as the Warriors looked at the film, independent of the other things, they looked at Kuminga as a player that isn't truly a threat offensively based on the way that the Lakers were trying to defend them, and that's part of why he isn't in the game plan, at least initially in this series as well.
Steve Kerr was saying after game 2 that, teams will do that now where they basically won't guard anybody. He said the Lakers do that more and more extremely than any other team, and that's one of the reasons they've been effective defensively. I'm with you. I mean, you have to consider that and remember that when you're trying to figure out Kuminga's role in this series. To me, at the risk of stating the obvious here, I think to play well in these 2 games on the road is going to be tough against the Lakers. I think the Warriors need more from Wiggins and Poole. I think they need both of them to be offensive threats. Wiggins has been okay, right? I mean, he hasn't been bad, and I think he came back against the Kings.
Good defensively, good energy. I liked his energy in game 2.
I think they need him to be a threat, more of a force offensively, and I think they really need Poole to be effective and efficient and to make his presence felt if they're going to come away with 1 or maybe even 2 wins down in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I think you and I are aligned in this. The Warriors are going to need more offense, I think, from other places. And the most likely places to get it would be Poole and Wiggins, I think, as this series shifts to L.A. I think with Steph and Clay, again, can you anticipate them continuing to shoot it as well as they have? Look, if they do, then all the better. If the Warriors keep making 23s a game, they're winning this series. And it may not be a 6-game series at that point or a 7-game series. If they do, I think you have to anticipate that those shots probably are not going to fall. I think you have to avoid the careless, bad turnover type game that has plagued the Warriors at times, sloppy transition defense type game that's plagued the Warriors at times on the road this year. I think you have to try to avoid that. But I'm with you. It's who else is going to score for the Warriors. They have to get some balance. And again, the first 2 places that you look, whether it's a surprising player like JaMychal Green and his 15 in game 2, or it's more of the regulars that you count on in terms of scoring, Wiggins and Jordan Poole, I think that's how you make up for some inefficiency maybe coming compared to the first 2 games as far as the shooting department goes. 888-957-9570. A couple of text messages here. A lot of people talking about Jordan Poole and what can the Warriors get for Jordan Poole. Look, we aren't there yet. I mean, this team still is 1-1 in the second round of the playoffs and has a chance to contend for a championship. So I'm always reluctant, and I know we've spent more time probably on Kuminga today than I anticipated. His name does always come up. Again, I hate to keep coming back to it and sound like I'm beating everybody over the head with the take on him, but it does seem like there's just this disconnect and angst about the level of player he is at this particular point in his career, and everybody wants to know. It comes up on every post game. It comes up, I think, on every show. And I don't know whether the Warriors have oversold him to this point. I don't really think they have, but I think the fan base and some in the media, this is where I do think some in the media have overhyped Kuminga's ability to be a contributor, and a lot of the fans buy in. They love the type of player he is because he's a dunker and he's athletic, and he comes off as really brash on the floor, like he, a guy that you want to pay to watch play when he's at his best. And so I think fans are really attracted to that and want him to be a part of that with what the other players that the Warriors have.
I think you're right. I think a lot of it is fans see what he does when he's when he really grabs your attention with the dunks and the athleticism. And I remember saying in his rookie year that he just moves differently. I mean, he'd go back on defense and it just, doing nothing. It's like, wow, you see the way he moves, and fans want to see more of that and have a hard time understanding why doesn't he get a chance to do that more? Because it helps you. But of course, it's the other things. When he's not doing that, he's actually, let's be honest, when he's not doing things that are helping you, he's often doing things that actually hurt you. And so, it's risky to have him in there, but still a tremendous amount of potential.
And I do think that his mistakes tend to be the kinds of mistakes that do go unnoticed unless you're really, really, really locked in with a keen basketball eye more than just the average person has. Kurt in Oakland is going to get the last word here on Warriors this week. Kurt, final caller of the afternoon on 95.7 The Game.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for taking my call. This is the dilemma with Kuminga that I've noticed with him. He moves with the ball, but he doesn't really move without the ball. And I've never really seen him dive for loose balls, and I've never seen him really go for offensive rebounds. Matt Steinmetz pointed out one time that when Kuminga comes into the game, he wants to look for stuff that would help him look good in the game. While Moses Moody, Dante DiVincenzo, GP2, they come into the game and they go, what can I do to help the team make them better and give them a chance to win? And it's just, he doesn't cut. I don't see him. He stands in the corner for the three, and then the shot goes up, and he's running back on defense. Attack the glass if you have all that athleticism. If you get a foul, you get a foul, but at least you're trying to get the possession of the ball. And it makes him a liability where somebody would then have to watch him when he's coming into the lane, and somebody else might be freed up to get the ball. But he doesn't do that. He just stands in the corner and waits for the ball and then runs back on defense.
Thanks, Kurt. Yeah, his best games have been games. That Dallas game in March stands out where he cut to the basket a lot and got dunks. He took the corner three when it was given to him. He defended full court. I think he had 2 steals that led to scores. Sometimes Kuminga can be a low motor player, and I think that the breakdown is spot on, Whitey. Final thoughts on Game 3 and even Game 4. Where are we going to be a week from today? Could be series over a week from today with all these games coming every other day. Are we talking about a series that's over next Saturday, or are we talking about going to a Game 7 next Saturday?
Love the Warriors' chances in this series. I just think given the ratings and given the nature of things, I don't know that the Warriors will have a fair shot at winning both these games. So I think we'll be even after these next 2, but I think the Warriors are going to slide through the rest of this series.
Whitey buying into the officiating conspiracy theories. Way to go, my man.
I started
Great
half
stuff.
of them. Yeah, thank you.
Great to have you back, my friend. We'll talk again next week. Cameron Williams, great to work with him again, running the show. Excellent job by Cam. I'll be back at 4 o'clock with Warriors Live from Crypto.com Arena. Warriors and the Lakers. It's Game 3, Western semifinals, and we got you covered all day long right here at 95.7 The Game.
Did you know that most people wait 6 or 7 years before they buy a new TV? That's a lot of time in front of one TV. So why not get one of the best sets for the next 7 years, like one of the top-rated Samsung, LG, or Sony models? Too expensive? What if you could get up to $1,000 trade-in for your old set? Who would do a stupid deal like this? Right now, at Video Only, you can get big bucks for your old set as a trade-in and a hot price on the new models. Don't be sorry. Check out Video Only.
At West Credit Union, we're working towards a brighter financial future for both our members and our community, knowing that when you succeed, we all succeed. That starts with a solid financial foundation. As a credit union, we have no stockholders demanding profits. Our commitment is to our members. Experience the difference with our Money Market Max Bonus promotion, offering a cash incentive for letting us protect and grow your money. West Credit Union, working for you. Today, tomorrow, together. West Credit Union is insured by NCUA. The playoffs are here and sports fans are laser focused. The Goodman Eye Center wants you to do the same with your eyes. We offer many options to fit your needs and correct your vision. So whether you're nearsighted, farsighted, or have astigmatism, the Goodman Eye Center can provide independence from glasses and contact lenses. When it comes to your vision, be sure to go with a winning team. Go with Dr. Daniel Goodman and his team at the Goodman Eye Center, the choice of champions. Schedule a free consultation today at GoodmanEyeCenter.com. That's GoodmanEyeCenter.com.
At Lowe's, we're always bringing pros more ways to save on the brands you trust. Right now, buy a DeWalt 9-gallon corded shop vacuum with accessories at a new low price of $99. Plus, as an MVPs member, earn 3 bonus points per dollar when you buy select concrete mix. You can then redeem for rewards. Because Lowe's knows savings. Lowe's...